It is 3 in the morning. The world outside is quiet, wrapped in a blanket of darkness and silence. But here, inside this room, a battle is being waged. Here, the silence is an amplifier, making the noise inside your own mind deafening. The sheets are twisted, the pillow is warm and unwelcome, and sleep feels like a distant shore you can see but never reach. Your body is exhausted, a vessel heavy with the day's fatigue. But your mind is on fire. It is a relentless storm of thoughts, a frantic monkey leaping from one branch to another without a moment's rest. A deadline at work, a conversation that ended awkwardly, a bill that needs to be paid, that strange comment someone left on your photo, the endless scroll of curated lives that make your own feel somehow less. The phone on the nightstand gives off a faint, ghostly glow, a silent siren promising distraction, a temporary escape that you know will only leave you more awake, more anxious. This experience, this quiet desperation in the heart of the night, is not just a personal failure to fall asleep. It is a symptom of our time, a shared malady of the modern soul. We live in a world that never turns off, and we have forgotten how to turn ourselves off in return. Our days are a torrent of information, stimulation, and pressure, and that torrent doesn't stop when our head hits the pillow. It seeps into our subconscious, churning our rest into a landscape of anxious dreams, or leaving us in a grey limbo of shallow, unfulfilling sleep. We wake up, not refreshed, but as if we have run a marathon in our minds, carrying the ghosts of the night into the harsh light of a new day. But what if there was another way? What if the night did not have to be a battleground? What if the path to restful sleep was not through a pill or a new gadget, but through a gentle turning inward? There is an ancient wisdom, a path walked for over 2,500 years, that looks at this very struggle, this human condition of suffering and restlessness, and offers not a command to be quiet, but a gentle invitation to listen. It suggests that peace is not something to be wrestled into submission, but a natural state that arises when we learn to skillfully and compassionately tend to the garden of our own mind. This is not about religion, but about a practical science of the mind. It is a path to understanding why we suffer, and a map to lead us out. It is the path of mindfulness, a quiet light that we can learn to kindle, a guide that can lead us through the darkness of our own anxieties, and home, to the deep, healing sanctuary of peaceful sleep. Of all the creatures in the vast kingdom of the mind, the one that visits us most faithfully in the dark is the monkey. In the ancient language of the Buddha, it is called kapasita, the monkey mind. It is a perfect metaphor, for our inner world so often resembles a restless primate, chattering and screeching, leaping from one branch of thought to the next, never still, never silent. During the day, this monkey has an entire forest to play in. The demands of work, the chatter of conversation, the endless scroll of the internet, the simple tasks of making a meal or driving a car. All of these are trees, branches, and vines that keep the monkey occupied. It leaps from a work problem vine to a social media outrage branch, from a memory of lunch tree to a planning for dinner vine. The forest is so dense, so full of distractions, that we barely notice the monkey's frantic energy. We are the monkey, and we are the forest, and the constant motion feels like life itself. But then, night comes. The world outside goes quiet. The forest of distraction vanishes. One by one, the trees of work, social life, and entertainment fall away, leaving only a single, solitary tree standing in the darkness, your awareness. And the monkey, with nowhere else to go, begins its performance on this brightly lit stage. Every leap, every screech, every agitated movement is now magnified, amplified by the surrounding silence. The quiet of the night does not create the monkey. It simply reveals it. It removes the background noise so that, for the first time all day, we are forced to listen to the soundtrack of our own untamed mind. And what does this monkey chatter about? It rarely speaks of the present moment. Its obsessions lie in two other realms, the unchangeable past and the unknowable future. One moment, it is the archaeologist monkey, digging up the bones of yesterday's mistakes. It replays a conversation from Tuesday, but this time, it comes up with the perfect retort you wish you had said. It dwells on a failure from 10 years ago, feeling the hot flush of shame as if it were happening right now. It remembers a moment of kindness someone showed you, and then immediately worries that you didn't thank them enough. This monkey is a historian of regret, a curator of cringe, forcing you to watch reruns of your own life's most awkward moments, with no power to change the script. Then, in a flash, it swings to another branch. It becomes the fortune teller monkey, peering into the mists of tomorrow. It rehearses a difficult conversation you need to have next week, playing out a dozen disastrous scenarios. It frets about finances, about health, about the state of the world. It builds elaborate structures of anxiety based on a foundation of what if. What if I fail the presentation? What if I get sick? What if they don't like me? Each what if is another leap into a phantom future, a future that has not happened and may never happen. Yet the body reacts as if it were a present danger. The heart beats faster, the stomach tightens, the breath becomes shallow. The fortune teller monkey is an expert at making us suffer for things that exist only in our imagination. This is the voice in the night, a frantic, ping-ponging monologue between regret and anxiety. The core teaching of the Buddha, the first ray of light in this darkness, is a truth both simple and profound. This voice is not you. These thoughts, these memories, these worries are not the essence of who you are. They are mental events. They are phenomena, arising and passing away within the vast space of your consciousness. You are not the chattering monkey. You are the silent, spacious awareness that witnesses the monkey's performance. Thoughts are like clouds drifting through the immense sky of your mind. You are the sky, not the clouds. The clouds can be dark and stormy, or light and wispy, but the sky remains unchanged, untouched, forever spacious and blue behind them. The problem is, we forget we are the sky. We believe we are the storm cloud. We identify with the thought. When a thought of anxiety arises, we don't just observe it, we grab onto it. We say, I am anxious. We fuse our entire sense of self with that fleeting mental event, and in that moment of fusion, we become trapped. This is the great danger, the mechanism that turns a passing thought into a night of suffering. There is a famous story that illustrates this perfectly. A hunter in a forest wanted to catch a particularly clever monkey. He knew the monkey was too fast to chase, so he devised a trap. He took a log, covered it in thick, black, incredibly sticky tree sap, and placed it in a clearing where the monkey often played. Soon enough, the monkey came swinging through the trees and saw this strange, dark figure. Curious, he approached it. Who are you? He chattered. The tar baby, of course, did not reply. The monkey grew angry. Answer me, he shrieked. Silence. Feeling insulted and wanting to teach the figure a lesson, the monkey balled up his fist and punched the tar baby right in the face. His hand was instantly stuck fast in the gooey sap. Let me go, he screamed, trying to pull away, but the sap held firm. In a panic, he thought, I will hit it with my other hand and knock myself free. He swung his other fist, and it too became glued to the trap. Now desperate, he kicked it with one foot, then the other, trying to push himself away. Both feet became stuck. In a final, desperate act of struggle, he pressed his head against the tar baby to try and shove it over. Now he was completely immobilized, stuck at 5 points, utterly helpless. The more he fought, the more he struggled against the sticky trap, the more hopelessly entangled he became. The hunter then came out and collected his prize. We are that monkey. The tar baby is a sticky thought, a worry about the future, a regret from the past. It sits there in our mind. Our first mistake is to engage with it, to get angry at it, to believe it is a real adversary. Our second mistake, the one that seals our fate, is to fight it. We punch it with resistance. I shouldn't be thinking this. Go away. Our hand gets stuck. We kick it with aversion. I hate this feeling. I can't stand it. Our foot gets stuck. We struggle and wrestle with the anxiety, trying to force it out of our mind, and in doing so, we become completely entangled. The struggle is the trap. The suffering is not the thought itself. The suffering is our desperate, violent reaction against the thought. If the monkey had simply observed the strange tar figure from a distance, acknowledged its presence without engaging, and then calmly walked away, it would have remained free. So how do we walk away? How do we stop punching the tar baby? We don't do it with more violence. We don't do it by trying to find a bigger stick to beat the monkey with. We do it with gentleness. We do it by offering the monkey something else to hold on to, something more interesting, more real, and more soothing than the branches of past and future. We offer it a leash, a gentle leash of kindness, and that leash is the breath. This is the first and most fundamental practice of mindfulness, the beginning of the path to taming the mind. It is called anapanasati, or mindfulness of breathing. It is so simple, it can feel radical. Lying there in the dark, with the monkey of the mind screeching and leaping, you do not fight it. You do not argue with it. You simply, gently, shift your attention. You shift it to the physical sensation of your own breathing. You don't have to breathe in a special way. You don't have to force it or count it. You just have to feel it. Feel the air coming in through your nostrils, slightly cool. Feel it flowing out, slightly warm. Or you can rest your attention on your abdomen, feeling the gentle rise as you inhale and the gentle fall as you exhale. The breath is our anchor to the present moment. The monkey mind cannot survive in the pure reality of the now. It feeds on the ghosts of the past and the phantoms of the future. When you are truly focused on the simple, physical sensation of your breath entering and leaving your body, you are here, now. And the monkey, for a moment, has nothing to grab onto. Of course, it will try. After a few breaths, you will find it has leaped away again, back to worrying about tomorrow's meeting or replaying yesterday's argument. This is not a failure. This is simply the nature of the untrained mind. The practice is not to never get distracted. The practice is what you do when you notice you are distracted. And what you do is this. You gently acknowledge where the mind has gone, without judgment, thinking, and then, with the kindness of a patient teacher guiding a child, you gently escort your attention back to the breath, back to the anchor, back to the now. Each time you do this, you are weakening the habit of entanglement and strengthening the muscle of mindfulness. You are teaching the monkey, not through punishment, but through gentle redirection. You are letting go of the tar baby, one breath at a time. The voice in the night may not disappear entirely, but your relationship to it begins to change. It is no longer a tyrant, it is just a voice, and you are learning with infinite patience how to be free. After we have acknowledged the presence of the monkey mind, the chattering voice in the night, the next step is not to immediately try and silence it. A wise physician, before writing a prescription, first makes a thorough diagnosis. They seek to understand the root cause of the illness, not just its symptoms. The Buddha approached human suffering in exactly this way. As a compassionate and pragmatic doctor of the soul, his very first teaching, delivered in a deer park after his enlightenment, was not a set of divine commandments, but a clinical, clear-eyed diagnosis of the human condition. This teaching is the framework upon which all of Buddhism is built, and it is known as the Four Noble Truths. To understand these truths is to move from being a helpless victim of our sleeplessness to becoming an empowered participant in our own healing. The first noble truth is the diagnosis itself, the truth of suffering, or dukkha. This word, dukkha, is often translated as suffering, but its meaning is far more subtle and pervasive. It doesn't just mean a great tragedy or physical pain. It points to a fundamental unsatisfactoriness that runs through all of our lives. It's the low-grade anxiety that hums beneath the surface of a busy day, the sense that something is not quite right, the feeling of being perpetually unfulfilled. It's the stress of striving, the pain of loss, the frustration of not getting what we want, and the discomfort of getting what we want, and realizing it doesn't make us permanently happy. Lying awake at 3 in the morning, feeling your heart race with anxiety as the minutes tick by, feeling the deep ache of exhaustion in your bones while your mind spins relentlessly. This is a perfect, concentrated experience of dukkha. The first step, the Buddha says, is simply to acknowledge this, to look at the experience squarely and say, this is dukkha, this is suffering. We don't have to like it, but we stop fighting the reality of it. We stop pretending it isn't happening, or telling ourselves we should be able to just fall asleep. In this simple, honest acknowledgement, a small space of clarity opens up. It is an act of profound self-compassion, like gently touching a wound, to understand its location and its nature, rather than ignoring it or striking it in frustration. Once the illness has been identified, the wise physician investigates its cause. This is the second noble truth, the truth of the origin of suffering, or samudaya. The Buddha declared that the root cause of our dukkha, our fundamental unsatisfactoriness, is a powerful force called tanha. This is translated as thirst, craving, or desire. It is not a gentle wishing, it is a deep, primal, burning thirst. And in the silent battlefield of the sleepless night, this thirst manifests in 3 distinct ways. First, there is the raw, desperate thirst for sleep itself. It is the craving for a pleasant sensation, the craving to be unconscious, to be at peace. I must sleep, the mind screams. If I don't sleep now, tomorrow will be a disaster. The more we grasp for sleep, the more it becomes like a slippery bar of soap in a bathtub. The harder we squeeze, the more forcefully it shoots out of our hand. This very craving, this desperate grasping, creates a state of physical and mental tension that is the exact opposite of the relaxation required for sleep to arise naturally. Second, there is the thirst for something to not exist. This is aversion, a form of craving turned inside out. It is the violent pushing away of our present reality. I hate this feeling of being awake. I can't stand this anxiety. This aversion is a form of fuel. It feeds the anxiety, making the heart beat faster, the muscles clench, the mind race even more frantically. We are at war with the present moment, and the body cannot possibly find rest in a state of war. Finally, there is a more subtle thirst, a craving for a certain identity, a certain story, rooted in ignorance of how things truly are. We cling to the idea of a solid, permanent me who is a bad sleeper. We create a narrative. This always happens to me. I'm just an insomniac. We get lost in worrying about what this sleeplessness means for me and my future. This clinging to a fixed self, a self who is the victim of this terrible affliction, is a core part of the entanglement. Here, the Buddha offered a powerful parable. Imagine a man is walking through the forest and is struck by an arrow. The physical pain is immediate and real. This is the first arrow. But then, the man begins to wail in despair. Why was I shot? Who shot me? This is terrible. What will become of me now? I might die. He is consumed by worry, fear, and anger about being shot. This reaction, this storm of mental anguish, is the second arrow. The Buddha taught that in life, we cannot always avoid the first arrow. Sickness, loss, and discomfort happen. Being awake when you want to be asleep is a first arrow. It is unpleasant. But the second arrow, the arrow of our mental reaction, is optional. It is the arrow we shoot into ourselves. The craving for sleep is a second arrow. The hatred of being awake is a second arrow. The frantic worry about tomorrow is a second arrow. It is these second arrows that cause the most intense and prolonged suffering. The practice is not about learning to never feel the first arrow, but about learning to stop shooting ourselves with the second. This leads us to the third noble truth, the most hopeful of all. This is the truth of the cessation of suffering, or nirodha. It is the prognosis. It states that if suffering has a cause, the thirst, the craving, the second arrows, then, by removing that cause, the suffering itself can be extinguished. There is an end to this struggle. There exists a state of profound peace, freedom, and well-being that is not dependent on whether we are asleep or awake. This state is not some far-off heaven. It is the natural state of a mind that is no longer burning with the fires of greed, hatred, and delusion. For the person lying awake at night, this truth is a beacon of hope. It means that the frantic, anxious state is not permanent. It means that peace is possible. It means you are not broken. You are simply caught in a cycle, and there is a way out. And that way out is the fourth noble truth, the truth of the path leading to the cessation of suffering, or magga. This is the doctor's prescription. The path is called the Noble Eightfold Path, a comprehensive guide to living a life of wisdom, ethical conduct, and mental discipline. It is a set of 8 interconnected practices, including things like right understanding, right intention, right speech, and right mindfulness. For our purposes, we can see this path as the collection of practical tools we will learn to use in the laboratory of our own nighttime experience. The techniques we will explore, creating a sanctuary, practicing loving kindness, letting go of our burdens, anchoring ourselves to the breath air, not random tips and tricks. They are modern, accessible applications of this ancient and noble path. They are the medicine prescribed to treat the illness of dukkha by targeting its root cause, the thirst of the mind. By framing our sleeplessness within the Four Noble Truths, we achieve a profound shift in perspective. The chaotic, terrifying monster of anxiety that haunts us in the dark is transformed. It becomes an understandable condition, with a clear diagnosis, a known cause, a hopeful prognosis, and a practical prescription for a cure. We move from being a passive victim to an active student. The sleepless night is no longer just a crisis to be endured. It is a classroom, an opportunity to understand the deepest workings of our own heart and mind, and to walk a path that leads not just to better sleep, but to a more profound and unshakable freedom. Having received the physician's diagnosis, having understood through the Four Noble Truths that our suffering has a cause and that a path to healing exists, we do not begin by wrestling immediately with the depths of the mind. The wise physician does not perform surgery in a cluttered, chaotic room. First, they prepare the space. They sterilize the instruments, ensure the lighting is correct, and create an environment of order and calm. In our journey towards peaceful sleep, our first act of healing is exactly this. We must build a sanctuary. We must transform the bedroom from a multi-purpose zone of activity and anxiety into a sacred space dedicated solely to rest and renewal. There is a profound principle in many wisdom traditions that our outer world is a direct reflection of our inner world. A cluttered desk, a pile of unopened mail, a bedroom strewn with the debris of a busy life. These things are not merely physical objects. They are external manifestations of a cluttered and agitated mind. Each object we see sends a subtle signal to our brain. A pile of laundry whispers, "You are behind on your chores." A stack of work papers on the nightstand murmurs, "You are not prepared for tomorrow." A tangled mess of charging cables hums with a low-grade technological chaos. We may not consciously register these messages, but our nervous system does. It remains on a low level of alert, kept awake by 1,000 tiny, unspoken demands. To create a sanctuary for sleep, we must first declare a truce with this chaos. We must purify the space. Let us begin with the sense of sight. Look around your bedroom not as a resident, but as a gentle observer. What do you see? Is the space simple, calm, and inviting to rest? Or is it a storage unit for the day's unfinished business? The practice begins with decluttering, not as a frantic cleaning spree, but as a mindful act of letting go. As you pick up an object, ask, does this serve my peace? Does this belong in my sanctuary of rest? Work papers, laptops, exercise equipment, unpaid bills, these are inhabitants of the world of doing. The bedroom at night must become a temple to the world of being. Find another home for them. A simple, clear space sends a powerful message to the mind. There is nothing to do here. There is nothing to fix, nothing to solve. Here, you are allowed to simply be. Then, consider the light. Our bodies are ancient, designed to follow the rhythms of the sun. The bright, blue-toned light of our phone screens, our tablets, and our televisions is the light of midday. It is a signal to the brain that says, be alert. It's time to work, to hunt, to think. When we bring these glowing rectangles into our sanctuary after dark, we are sending our bodies a profoundly confusing signal. We are inviting the frantic energy of the day into the sacred quiet of the night. The act of turning off these screens an hour or two before bed is one of the most powerful rituals you can perform. It is a declaration that the day is done. The world and its endless demands can wait until sunrise. Replace this jarring electronic light with soft, warm, gentle illumination, like a low-wattage lamp with a warm-toned bulb. Let the light in your room mimic the soft glow of twilight or candlelight, signaling to every cell in your body that it is time to wind down. Next, listen to your sanctuary. What are its sounds? The hum of electronics, the distant drone of traffic, the sudden buzz of a notification you forgot to silence. These sounds, however subtle, are disturbances. They are sonic clutter. They can prevent the nervous system from fully surrendering to rest. You might cultivate silence, using earplugs if necessary, or you might choose to create a predictable and soothing sound blanket. The gentle, rhythmic whir of a fan, a white noise machine, or a recording of soft rain can mask jarring background noises and create a consistent, non-threatening audio environment. The key is intention. You are consciously choosing the soundtrack for your rest, rather than being a passive victim of the world's random noise. With the physical space purified, we now turn to the most important part of the process, creating a mindful ritual of transition. So many of us live our days at a frantic pace, and then, at the very last second, we turn off the lights and expect our minds to immediately switch off as well. This is like expecting a speeding car to stop instantly without any brakes. It defies the laws of momentum. We need a braking system, a gentle, conscious transition that bridges the world of day and the world of night. This is not another chore to add to your list. It is a profound gift of kindness to yourself. This ritual might begin an hour before your intended bedtime with the sacred act of unplugging. The phone is the primary vessel that carries the anxious monkey mind into our sanctuary. Putting it away, ideally charging in another room, is an act of liberation. You are cutting the cord to the endless stream of information and comparison that fuels so much of our anxiety. Your ritual might then involve the element of warmth. Prepare a cup of caffeine-free herbal tea, such as chamomile, mint, or lavender. But do not just drink it, experience it. This is a practice in mindfulness. Feel the weight and warmth of the mug in your hands. Watch the steam rise like a soft prayer. Bring the cup to your nose and inhale the calming aroma before you even take a sip. When you do drink, feel the warmth spread through your body. This simple 10-minute act can be a more profound meditation than an hour of struggling to sit on a cushion. It anchors your racing mind in the simple, pleasant reality of the present moment. Next, you might engage with something gentle and analog. Read a few pages from a physical book. Choose something that nourishes the soul rather than agitates the intellect. Poetry, philosophy, a gentle novel. Feel the texture of the paper, the weight of the book in your hands. Let the words wash over you. The goal is not to consume information, but to be soothed. Alternatively, a warm bath or shower can be a powerful part of this ritual, focusing on the sensation of the water on your skin, letting it symbolically wash away the tensions of the day. Finally, we must consider the altar of our sanctuary, the bed itself. We must re-establish the sanctity of the bed. For many of us, the bed has become an office, a movie theater, a dining table, and a battlefield for our anxieties. We have taught our brain that the bed is a place for alertness, for work, for worry. We must patiently unteach this association. The bed should be reserved for only two things: sleep and intimacy. When you get into bed, it should be the final step in your ritual, a signal that it is now time for complete surrender to rest. If you find yourself lying there for more than 20 minutes, unable to sleep, with the monkey mind beginning its frantic performance, do not stay and fight. This turns the bed into a place of struggle. Instead, get up, go to another room with dim lighting. Read your calming book or sit quietly until you feel the waves of sleepiness return. Then, and only then, go back to bed. By doing this, you protect the sacred association between your bed and peaceful rest. You are teaching your mind, with gentle consistency, that the bed is an altar for peace, not a ring for wrestling. In Zen monasteries, the monks care for the meditation hall, the zendo, with meticulous attention. They sweep the floors, arrange the cushions, light the incense, and bow as they enter and leave. This is not just housekeeping, it is a part of their spiritual practice. They know that a calm, ordered, and respected outer space makes it easier to cultivate a calm, ordered, and respectful inner space. By building a sanctuary in your own home, you are engaging in this same profound practice. You are sweeping the floors of your mind, arranging the cushions of your intention, and sending a powerful, compassionate message to every level of your being. The day is done. You are safe. Here, you are allowed to rest. We have stood together at the edge of a profound realization, the acknowledgement that our unease, our deep and subtle dissatisfaction with life, this state of dukkha, is not a permanent sentence. We have heard the promise whispered through time, the truth of Nirodha, the cessation of this suffering. This promise brings with it a quiet, powerful hope, a light that begins to dawn in the dark corners of our modern anxieties. But hope, by itself, is not a strategy. A promise, without a means of fulfillment, can feel distant, even taunting. And so, the most human, the most practical question arises from this newfound hope. How do we walk from the shore of suffering to the shore of peace? If there is an end to this fever of the mind, what is the medicine? The wisdom of the Buddha does not leave us with a vague hope. It offers a prescription. It provides a map. This map is not drawn on brittle parchment, stored in a dusty archive. It is a living map, a practical guide for navigating the complex terrain of the human heart and mind. It is known as the Noble Eightfold Path, or in the ancient Pali language, Arya Atatangika Magga. The word path, Magga, is perhaps the most important one here. It tells us that this is not a doctrine to be believed, not a set of commandments to be obeyed under threat of punishment, and not an instantaneous magical cure. It is a path, something to be walked, to be experienced, to be lived. Each step taken upon this path is a step toward clarity, toward sanity, toward a peace that does not depend on the world being peaceful. It is a path of cultivation, of training, a gradual unfolding of our own innate potential for wisdom and compassion. It is the middle way, a path that skillfully avoids the traps of indulgence and punishment that so many of us fall into. To understand this middle way, it is helpful to hear the story of a man named Sona. Before he began his spiritual search, Sona was a musician, born to great wealth. His feet were said to be so delicate that fine hairs grew upon his soles. He lived a life of extreme comfort and sensual pleasure. But this life, for all its ease, left him feeling empty, so he renounced it all. He became an ascetic, practicing with an intensity that bordered on self-torture. He pushed his body and mind to their absolute limits, meditating with such ferocity that he bled from his feet as he walked. Yet, after all this effort, he was no closer to peace. He was disheartened, thinking of returning to his old life of luxury, feeling like a failure in both worlds. The Buddha, knowing Sona's struggle, came to him and asked a simple question. He said, "Sona, you were a skilled musician in your lay life. Tell me, if the string of your lute is tuned too tightly, will it produce a beautiful sound?" Sona replied, "No, Lord. If it is too tight, it will snap." The Buddha then asked, "And if the string is tuned too loosely, will it produce a beautiful sound?" "No, Lord," Sona said. "If it is too loose, it will not make a sound at all." The Buddha then looked at him with great compassion and said, "In the same way, Sona, energy that is stretched too tight leads to restlessness, and energy that is too slack leads to laziness. The path to awakening is not found in the extremes of self-indulgence or self-mortification. It is found in the middle, in the string that is tuned just right, capable of producing beautiful, harmonious music." In that moment, Sona understood. The spiritual life was not about punishment or pleasure, it was about balance. It was about tuning the instrument of the mind and body with skill and care. The Noble Eightfold Path is the art of tuning this instrument. It is composed of 8 interconnected aspects of life, and it's important to see them not as a sequence of steps, one after the other, but as the interwoven threads of a single, beautiful fabric. They support and enrich one another, and are meant to be cultivated simultaneously. To make them easier to understand, we can group these 8 factors into 3 essential trainings: the training in wisdom, the training in ethical conduct, and the training in mental discipline. First is the training in wisdom, or prajna. This is the foundation, the compass that points us in the right direction. It consists of 2 parts. The first is right view, or sometimes called right understanding. This is nothing less than the effort to see reality as it is, not as we wish it to be, or fear it to be. It is the clear seeing of the truths we have begun to explore. The reality of dukkha, the truth of impermanence, that everything is in flux, and the truth of no self, that our ego is not a solid, unchanging entity. Right view is the antidote to ignorance. It is the clear-eyed perspective that allows us to stop fighting with reality and begin to work with it. The second part of wisdom is right intention, or right thought. Once we begin to see things clearly, we must align our hearts with that vision. Right intention is the conscious choice to cultivate thoughts of letting go rather than thoughts of craving. It is the intention of goodwill and harmlessness, the sincere wish for the well-being of ourselves and all other beings, a direct counter to intentions of anger and aversion. It is the aspiration that guides all the other steps on the path. The second training is in ethical conduct, or shila. This is where wisdom moves from the mind and heart into the world of action and speech. It is how we manifest our inner clarity in our relationships with others. It has 3 parts. First is right speech. This means more than just avoiding lies. It means speaking truthfully, but also speaking kindly. It means refraining from harsh words, from divisive gossip, from speech that is meant to harm or belittle. It is the practice of asking ourselves, is what I am about to say true? Is it necessary? Is it kind? Is it beneficial? The second part is right action. This is the practice of acting in ways that are compassionate and harmless. It is the commitment to abstain from taking life, from stealing, and from sexual misconduct. It is about respecting the bodies, the property, and the dignity of others, creating a life of integrity that becomes a source of self-respect and peace, rather than regret. The third part is right livelihood. This encourages us to find a way to make a living that does not cause harm to others or to ourselves. It is a call to examine how we spend our working hours, ensuring our profession does not involve exploitation, deceit, or the trade in weapons, intoxicants, or poisons. It is about contributing to the world in a way that is wholesome and life-affirming. The third training is in mental discipline, or samadhi. This is the laboratory of the mind, the place where we actively forge new habits of attention and clarity. This training also has 3 parts. The first is right effort. This is not a forceful, gritting your teeth kind of effort. It is the gentle, joyful, and persistent energy to cultivate what is good and to release what is not. It is the effort to prevent unwholesome thoughts like anger or greed from arising. It is the effort to abandon them if they have arisen. It is the effort to cultivate wholesome states like kindness and mindfulness, and the effort to maintain those states when they are present. The second part, and the very heart of the entire practice, is right mindfulness, or sati. This is the art of being present. It is the moment-to-moment, non-judgmental awareness of our own experience, our body, our feelings, our thoughts, and the world around us. It is the practice of anchoring ourselves in the here and now, which we will explore so much more deeply because it is the skill that makes all the others possible. And finally, there is right concentration. As we practice mindfulness, the mind, which is so often scattered and fragmented, begins to gather. Right concentration is the ability to unify the mind, to bring it to a point of stillness and focus. It is this collected, stable mind that is able to see into the true nature of reality, achieving the deep insights of wisdom. These 8 factors work together, like the spokes of a wheel. A wheel needs all its spokes to be strong and to turn smoothly. Right view informs our right effort. Right mindfulness supports our right speech. Right action creates the conditions for right concentration. They are not a checklist to be completed, but a holistic way of life to be embodied. This path is the great gift of this tradition. It is a complete system for human flourishing, a practical blueprint for transforming suffering into freedom. It doesn't ask for blind faith. It simply asks that we walk it, that we tune the strings of our own being and listen for ourselves to the music that it creates. Our journey now will be to walk this path together, to explore each of these aspects, not as abstract philosophy, but as living practices. And we will begin with the very foundation of wisdom, learning to see the world with new eyes, starting with the most fundamental, liberating, and often challenging truth of all, the truth of impermanence. We have been given a map, the Noble Eightfold Path, a practical guide to navigate our way toward a lasting peace. The first step on this map, the very foundation of the section on wisdom, is called right view. But right view is not about adopting a new set of beliefs or dogmas. It is about learning to see. It is about taking off the distorted lenses of our hopes and fears and looking at the world and at ourselves with a courageous and gentle clarity. The journey of seeing clearly begins with opening our eyes to the most fundamental, most pervasive, and most often ignored law of the universe. It is a truth that whispers in the changing of the seasons, that rumbles in the passing of a storm, and that beats quietly within our own chests. This truth is impermanence. In the Pali language, it is called anicca. To the modern mind, trained to seek security and stability above all else, the idea of impermanence can sound like a dark and pessimistic verdict on life. It can feel like a threat. We spend our days and years striving to build things that last. We want a permanent career, a forever love, a stable home, a lasting state of happiness, an unchanging sense of self. We operate as if we are architects building with stone, when in reality, the very ground beneath our feet is a flowing river. Our fundamental suffering arises from this friction, this constant, exhausting struggle between our deep-seated desire for permanence and the undeniable reality of a universe in constant flux. We build our beautiful, carefully constructed houses of sand right at the water's edge, and then we are filled with shock, grief, and anger when the tide of time inevitably comes in. The wisdom of anicca does not ask us to stop building, nor does it ask us to despair at the tide. It simply asks us to see the sand for what it is, and to see the ocean for what it is. It invites us to understand the nature of our materials. What if this constant change is not a cosmic flaw, but a cosmic dance? What if the very impermanence we fear is, in fact, the doorway to our liberation? Let's begin by looking outside ourselves. Allow your awareness to soften and just notice the evidence of anicca that is all around you right now. It is in the slow journey of the sun across the sky, marking the impermanence of this very day. It is in the clouds that gather, darken, release their rain, and then dissipate, never holding the same shape for more than a moment. If you have a plant in your room, look at it. It is not a static object, it is a process. It is actively turning light into life. Its cells are dividing, its leaves are unfurling or yellowing. It is in a constant state of becoming and unbecoming. Think of the city or town where you live. The buildings you see were not always there. The roads have been paved and repaved. The shops changed their names and owners. The entire landscape is a testament to constant transformation. Even the most solid-seeming mountain is slowly being worn down by wind and rain. The universe is not a noun, it is a verb. It is a ceaseless, dynamic, and flowing process. To see this is not to feel a sense of loss, but to begin to feel a sense of awe, to participate in the incredible, unfolding mystery of existence. Now, let's turn this gentle gaze inward, for it is here, within our own experience, that the wisdom of impermanence becomes a truly powerful tool for freedom. Consider your own body. We speak of my body as if it is a singular, solid possession that we own, but it is not a fixed thing. It is a river of change. With every breath, you take in the world and you release it. Your cells are constantly dying and being reborn. The body you have today is not the identical body you had 7 years ago, or even 7 minutes ago. It is aging, changing, responding to food, to stress, to rest. To acknowledge this is not to be morbid. It is to be realistic. And in this realism, there is a profound invitation to be kind to this body, to care for this ever-changing vessel that carries us through life, to inhabit it fully in the present moment, because this present form is the only one we truly have. Even more fleeting than the body are our feelings, our emotions. This is perhaps the most liberating area to apply the wisdom of anicca, especially in a world filled with anxiety and stress. Think of your mind as a vast, open sky. Your feelings and emotions, joy, sadness, peace, anger, worry, excitement are like the weather. They are like clouds that drift across the sky. Sometimes the sky is clear and blue. At other times, it is filled with dark, turbulent storm clouds. We suffer so deeply because when a storm cloud of anxiety or sadness appears, we forget about the sky. We contract around the cloud, identify with it, and believe, I am this storm. We believe the storm is permanent, that the blue sky is gone forever. But the wisdom of impermanence offers us a different way. It allows us to stand back and simply observe the weather of the mind. When a feeling of anxiety arises, we can learn to say, here is a cloud of anxiety passing through the sky of my awareness. By naming it, by seeing it as a temporary, impersonal event, we rob it of its power to define us. We don't have to fight the cloud or push it away. We simply create space for it, knowing that because it is impermanent, it will, in its own time, change. It will dissipate. The sky is not harmed by the passing of a storm. Your awareness is not harmed by the passing of an emotion. This practice creates a space of profound safety within us. It allows us to feel our feelings without being consumed by them. It is the quiet, confident whisper in the midst of turmoil that says, "This, too, shall pass." And what of our thoughts? They are even more ephemeral, more fleeting than the clouds. They are like fireflies, flickering in and out of the darkness of the mind. One moment a memory, the next a plan, the next a judgment, the next a line from a song. We cause ourselves immense pain by grasping onto these thoughts, believing every single one of them, identifying with them as me and mine. The practice is to simply watch the light show without trying to catch the fireflies, to see them appear and disappear, to recognize their insubstantial, transient nature. There is a beautiful story of a Zen master who, after a long walk, brought his student to a wide, sandy beach. The master bent down and, with his finger, drew a large, flowing, beautiful circle in the wet sand. He looked at his student and said, "This is your life. This is everything you love, everything you cherish, everything you work so hard to protect." As he spoke, a small wave gently washed over the edge of the circle, blurring its lines. The student watched, a feeling of anxiety rising in him. Then, a larger wave came and washed the circle away completely, leaving only the smooth, wet sand. The student felt a pang of sadness and loss. The master, seeing his student's face, smiled gently. "You must not see this as a tragedy," he said. "The beauty of the circle was real, was it not? In the moment it existed, it was perfect. And its passing is also a part of its perfection. The lesson is not to stop drawing circles, but to learn to love the drawing of them and to learn to let them go. This is the gift of Anicca. It is not a philosophy of nihilism or despair. It is a profound call to presence. It is the universe's constant reminder that the only moment we can ever truly live in is this one. The past is a memory, a ghost. The future is a projection, a dream. Only this present moment is real, and it is beautiful, precisely because it will not last. Impermanence is what makes life precious. It is what urges us to love fully, to forgive quickly, to listen deeply, and to be truly awake to the miracle of being alive, right here, right now. Understanding this truth, not just with our intellect, but with our whole being, frees us from the exhausting work of resisting reality. It allows us to finally unclench our fist and let the river of life flow through us. As we become more comfortable with the ever-changing nature of things, a new question naturally arises. If everything is in flux, then who is the I that is observing all this change? This leads us directly to the next, even deeper, pillar of wisdom. We have stood at the shore of a great river, the river of impermanence, and we have begun to feel its current in everything around us and within us. We have watched the clouds of our emotions drift and dissipate. We have felt the constant flow of change in our own bodies, and we have recognized that nothing in this world is fixed or permanent. This deep seeing, this acceptance of Anicca, naturally gives rise to a profound and unsettling question. It is perhaps the most personal question we can ask. As we watch this river of change, we must ask, who is the watcher? Who is this I that is experiencing all of this? We have a deep, instinctual feeling of a self, a solid and continuous presence at the very center of our being. We feel like a driver in a car, a pilot in a cockpit, a chief executive sitting in the headquarters of the mind, making decisions and experiencing the world. We protect this self, we worry about it, we polish its reputation, we defend its borders. But what if, when we look for it, we cannot find it? This is the next step on our journey of right view. It is an exploration of the second great mark of existence, known in the Pali language as anatta. This term is often translated as no self, and it is without a doubt the most radical, the most counterintuitive, and ultimately the most liberating teaching in this tradition. The idea of no self does not mean that you do not exist. It is not an argument for annihilation or a statement of nihilism. You are here, you are breathing, you are hearing these words. Anatta is not a denial of your existence, but a profound re-examination of how you exist. It suggests that the self we feel to be so solid is not a concrete entity, but a dynamic process. It is more like a wave than a stone. It is not a thing, but an event. Let us go on a search for this self. Let us try to locate this fixed, unchanging I that we feel is our core. Where is it? Is it in your body? We have already seen that the body is a constantly changing collection of processes. The cells you had a decade ago are almost entirely gone. Is your self then gone with them? That cannot be right. Is your self your name? Your name is just a label, a sound. It has been given to you, and it can be changed. Is your self in your job, or your role as a parent or a child? These roles change, they come and go. Is your self in your possessions? These can be lost or broken. Perhaps your self is in your thoughts or your opinions, but you have changed your mind many times in your life. Your thoughts are a fleeting parade, constantly appearing and disappearing. So where is the permanent thinker behind the thoughts? The more we search for a static, independent I, the more it eludes us. We are like an onion, peeling away layer after layer, looking for a core that is not there. The startling discovery is that the onion is the layers. There is no central pit. The Buddha offered a beautifully systematic way to understand this. He taught that what we call a person can be understood as the coming together of 5 interconnected, always changing processes. These are known as the 5 aggregates or skandhas. The first is form. This is the material world, our physical body, with all its sense organs. We've seen this as impermanent. The second is feeling. This is the raw data of experience, the immediate sense of something as pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. A cool breeze on a hot day is pleasant. The sound of a siren is unpleasant. These feelings arise, linger for a moment, and vanish. They are not you, they are simply what is being felt. The third aggregate is perception. This is the mental faculty that recognizes and labels our experience. Our eyes see a pattern of light and color, and the faculty of perception labels it tree, or car, or screen. This process is also not a solid self. It is a conditioned function of the mind. The fourth is the most complex. Mental formations. This is the vast category of all our mental habits, our intentions, our biases, our moods, our desires, our aversions, our volitions. It includes our anger, our kindness, our fear, and our courage. This is what we would typically call our personality or character. But from this perspective, we see that our personality is not a fixed thing, but a collection of habits and tendencies, all of which are subject to change. Finally, the fifth aggregate is consciousness. This is the faculty of knowing, the basic awareness that arises when our senses meet the world. There is seeing consciousness, hearing consciousness, thinking consciousness. But even this consciousness is not a permanent, monolithic soul that resides within us. It is taught that consciousness arises dependently. It arises when an eye and a form come together. It arises when an ear and a sound come together. It flickers in and out of existence from moment to moment, illuminating one experience and then the next. These 5 processes, form, feeling, perception, mental formations, and consciousness, are the entirety of our experience. There is no 6th aggregate, no hidden CEO, no permanent owner of the experience. What we call self is the dynamic, flowing, interdependent dance of these 5 processes. You are not a noun. You are a verb. You are not a static being. You are a constant becoming. There is a famous story that illustrates this perfectly. A sage named Nagasena was met by King Milinda. The king, a sharp and inquisitive man, asked the sage his name. "I am known as Nagasena," the sage replied, "but this is only a designation, a convenient name. There is no permanent person to be found here." The king was baffled and amused. He challenged the sage. If there is no person, then who wears the robes? Who eats the food? Who meditates? Nagasena remained calm. He then turned the question back to the king, who had arrived in a magnificent chariot. "Your Majesty," Nagasena asked, "how did you arrive here?" "In a chariot," the king replied. "Then please, Your Majesty, tell me what a chariot is," the sage said. "Is it the wheels?" "No," said the king. "Is it the axle?" "Number." "Is it the frame, the reins, the yoke?" "No," the king replied to each question. "Then," Nagasena concluded, "is the chariot something other than these parts?" The king had to admit it was not. Nagasena then delivered the profound point. "Chariot, Your Majesty, is the convenient name we give to this collection of parts, assembled in this particular way. It has no independent existence apart from its components. In the same way, Nagasena is the convenient name I use for this temporary collection of body, feelings, perceptions, mental formations, and consciousness. There is no separate, enduring self to be found within. To truly grasp this can feel frightening at first, like the ground is disappearing beneath our feet. But soon, that fear gives way to an incredible sense of freedom. When you see that there is no fixed, solid self, a heavy burden drops from your shoulders. Think of your harsh inner critic, that voice that tells you that you are not good enough, that you are flawed. Who is it criticizing? If there is no permanent, flawed you, then that critic loses its target. There are only unskillful habits, temporary states of mind that can be observed and changed. Think of the immense energy we spend protecting our ego, defending our reputation, worrying about what others think of us. When we see that this ego is a story, a mental creation, the need to defend it diminishes. We can finally relax. Most beautifully, when the hard, artificial boundary of me begins to dissolve, the wall separating me from you also becomes porous. We start to see that the processes happening in our being are the same kinds of processes happening in every other being. Your desire for happiness is born from the same root as mine. Your fear of pain arises from the same conditions as mine. We are all interconnected waves in the same great ocean of existence. In this seeing, compassion arises not as a moral duty, but as a natural, spontaneous response. It is the heart's recognition of our shared reality. This is the freedom of anatta. It is not the loss of a self, but the discovery of a boundless, interconnected, and far more joyful way to live. We have journeyed together into the very heart of our perceived identity, exploring the profound and liberating truths of impermanence and no self. We have seen that the solid ground we thought we stood upon is actually a flowing river, and that the fixed I we sought to protect is in fact a dynamic, ever-changing process, a dance of mind and matter. This realization, as freeing as it is, raises a critical question. If there is no permanent self, no unchanging soul to endure through time, then what becomes of consequence? What is the meaning of our actions? If there is no one to reward and no one to punish, does it matter what we do, what we say, or even what we think? It is here that we encounter the third great pillar of right view, a concept as widely known as it is profoundly misunderstood. This is the law of karma. In the modern world, the word karma has been absorbed into the popular lexicon, but it has been stripped of its deep meaning. We use it casually to mean fate or destiny, a kind of cosmic retribution, or a mysterious balancing of the scales. We imagine a celestial scoreboard keeping track of our good and bad deeds. But this is a distortion. The Buddhist understanding of karma is not about an external judge, and it is not about predetermined fate. It is something far more intimate, more immediate, and more scientific. It is the natural law of cause and effect applied to the ethical and psychological dimensions of our lives. The word karma itself, in the ancient languages, simply means action. But the Buddha clarified this with a crucial distinction. He said, "It is intention, I say, that is karma. Having intended, one then acts through body, speech, or mind." This is the key. The entire law of karma hinges on the quality of the intention, the volition, the will behind the action. It is not what we do, but why we do it, that plants the most significant seeds. Imagine you are holding a glass of water. In a moment of clumsiness, you trip and the water spills, ruining a book belonging to a friend. The outcome is negative, a book is damaged, but the intention was absent. Your response is one of apology and regret. Now, imagine a different scenario. In a moment of anger, you deliberately and consciously throw the glass of water on your friend's book. The physical action is the same. The outcome for the book is the same, but the inner event, the karma, is radically different. The intention was rooted in malice, in the desire to cause harm. The immediate result of that action is not just a wet book, but a wounded relationship, a poisoning of trust, and most importantly, a strengthening of the habit of anger within your own mind. You have watered the seed of hatred in the garden of your own heart. The fruits of our karma are not always external events that happen to us later on. The most immediate and undeniable fruit is the way our actions shape our own character, moment by moment. When we act with a mind of generosity, kindness, and clarity, we strengthen those qualities within ourselves. We become more generous, more kind, more clear. When we act with a mind of greed, hatred, and confusion, we strengthen those qualities. We become more greedy, more hateful, more confused. We are sculpting our own minds, our own hearts, with every intentional act. This is the essence of karma. We are not punished for our anger. We are punished by our anger. The experience of anger, here and now, is its own immediate, unpleasant result. The experience of kindness is its own immediate reward. We create karma through three doorways: the body, speech, and the mind. The actions of the body are the most obvious an act of violence or an act of charity, stealing or protecting. The actions of speech are also powerful. We can use words as weapons, engaging in lies, slander, or harsh gossip that harms others and agitates our own mind. Or we can use words as medicine, speaking truthfully, kindly, and with the intention to heal and connect. This is right speech, an active form of wholesome karma. But the most subtle and the most powerful doorway of action is the mind itself. Even before a word is spoken or a physical act is performed, the intention forms in the mind. A silent thought of ill will toward another is a karmic act. A fleeting, private moment of compassion is a karmic act. The mind is the source code. It is the workshop where the blueprints for all our speech and actions are drawn. This is incredibly empowering because it means that even when we feel helpless in the external world, we can always practice. We can always work on cultivating wholesome states of mind, planting the seeds of peace right where we are. To understand this in the simplest way, consider the wisdom of a farmer. A farmer knows karma intimately. She knows that she cannot stand in an empty field and pray for a harvest of corn. She knows that if she plants tomato seeds, she will not get potatoes. She understands that the quality of her harvest is directly related to the quality of the seeds she plants and the care she gives them. The earth is reality. The seeds are her intentional actions, her thoughts, her words, her deeds. The harvest is her experience. If she plants seeds of diligence, care, and wisdom, she creates the conditions for a bountiful harvest. If she plants seeds of neglect or poison, she will reap a field of weeds and suffering. It is a natural law. There is no judgment from the sky, only the impersonal, infallible result of cause and effect. We are all farmers. Every moment of our lives, we are planting seeds in the field of our own consciousness. With every flash of anger, every surge of greed, every dismissive thought, we are planting thorns. With every moment of patience, every small act of generosity, every thought of loving kindness, we are planting flowers and nourishing fruits. Look at the current conditions of your life, the state of your own heart and mind. This is your present harvest. It grew from the seeds you planted in the past. We cannot go back and change the seeds we planted yesterday. This is where karma can be mistaken for fate. We must experience the results of our past actions. Buddhist, this is the locus of our freedom. We are always, in this very moment, standing in the field with a bag of new seeds. We have a choice. Our freedom does not lie in erasing the past. It lies in the power we have, right now, to choose which seeds to plant for the future. We are not prisoners of our past karma. We are simply its inheritors, and we are the active creators of our future inheritance. This understanding dismantles any sense of being a victim. It removes all excuses. Our happiness and our suffering are not random, nor are they imposed upon us by an external power. They are the results of our own actions. This places the responsibility for our well-being squarely and beautifully in our own hands. This re-examination of karma completes the foundational wisdom of right view. We have seen that all things are impermanent, that there is no fixed self, and that our lives are governed by a natural law of moral cause and effect. We are not a noun, but a verb, and the quality of our becoming is shaped by the intentions we cultivate. This is not a belief system to adopt. It is a reality to be observed, a law to be tested in the laboratory of your own life. It is the ultimate principle of empowerment. You are the farmer. You are the architect of your own experience. The question that this wisdom leaves us with is a powerful one. Knowing this, what seeds will you choose to plant today? We have explored the profound wisdom that reveals the nature of our world and our own minds. We have seen that everything flows in a great river of impermanence, that the solid self we cling to is an illusion, and that we are the architects of our own experience through the power of our intentions, the law of karma. This wisdom is liberating, it is empowering, but it can also feel abstract. It is a map of the territory, but we still need to learn how to walk. We need a practical tool, a method to begin working with our own minds directly, a way to translate this understanding into a lived reality. This brings us to the very heart of the practice, to the section of the Eightfold Path known as mental discipline, and the cornerstone of this discipline, the fundamental skill from which all else grows, is right mindfulness. Before we can direct our minds, we must first learn to be present with them. For most of us, our minds are not peaceful, well-ordered places. They are more like a wild jungle, filled with what the ancient texts called capacita, the monkey mind. Imagine a monkey, restless and agitated, swinging frantically from branch to branch in a vast forest. It grabs one branch, a memory from the past, a moment of regret or nostalgia. Before it even settles, it leaps to another branch, a worry about the future, a plan, a fear, an imagined conversation. It is pulled by every sound, distracted by every passing insect, never resting, never still, chattering endlessly. This is the ordinary state of our untrained minds. We live our lives swung between the dead branches of the past and the imaginary branches of the future, rarely ever touching the solid ground of the present moment. We eat our meals while planning our afternoon. We drive our cars while replaying an argument. We lie in bed at night, exhausted, while our minds run a marathon of worries. This constant inner motion is the source of our deep and pervasive exhaustion. So what can we do? How do we gentle this wild monkey? The wisdom of this tradition does not suggest we try to cage the monkey or to kill it. That would only lead to a violent and fruitless struggle. Instead, it offers a beautifully simple and profoundly effective method. It suggests we give the monkey a single, interesting branch to hold onto, a place to rest. This resting place is our own breath. The practice is called anapanasati, which simply means mindfulness of breathing. Your breath is the most powerful and accessible anchor to the present moment that you will ever find. Think about it. It is always with you, from the moment you are born to the moment you die. You do not need to buy it, to download it, or to believe in it. It is utterly neutral, and most importantly, it is always, without exception, happening right now. You cannot breathe in the past, you cannot breathe in the future, you can only breathe in this present moment. The breath, therefore, becomes our anchor, the steadfast post in the storm of our thoughts. When the winds of anxiety are howling and the waves of memory are crashing, we can always find refuge in the simple, rhythmic reality of the breath coming in and going out. The practice itself is deceptively simple. It is an invitation, not a command. Find a comfortable place to sit. You don't need a special cushion or a perfect posture. You can sit on a chair with your feet flat on the floor and your back upright but not stiff, in a posture of dignity and ease. You might like to gently close your eyes, or you can leave them softly open with your gaze lowered. The invitation is simply to bring your awareness to the physical sensations of breathing. You don't need to change your breath, to make it deeper or slower. Just allow it to be exactly as it is. Let the body breathe itself. Your only task is to feel it. You might notice the sensation of the air passing in and out of your nostrils, a subtle coolness on the in-breath, a slight warmth on the out-breath. Or you may be more aware of the rising and falling of your chest, or the gentle expansion and contraction of your abdomen. It doesn't matter where you feel it. Just choose one spot and let your attention rest there, as lightly as a butterfly resting on a flower. Feel the entire journey of one in-breath, from its beginning to its middle to its end, and then feel the entire journey of the out-breath. That's it. That is the entire instruction. Just this one breath. Now, within a few moments of doing this, something inevitable will happen. Your mind will wander. The monkey will leap. A thought will arise. What am I doing this for? A sound will catch your attention. An itch will appear on your nose. A memory will surface. A plan for dinner will pop into your head. This is not a mistake. This is not a failure. It is simply the nature of the untrained mind. In fact, the moment you realize your mind has wandered is a moment of pure success. That moment of recognizing, my mind has drifted into thinking, is a golden moment of mindfulness. And what do you do in that moment? You do something radical. You do not scold yourself. You do not get frustrated or sigh in disappointment. With infinite gentleness and patience, as if you were guiding a lost puppy back home, you simply and kindly escort your attention back to the breath, and you begin again. In-breath, out-breath. Then, a few seconds later, the mind will wander again. And again you will notice, and again you will gently, kindly return. This process of wandering, noticing, and gently returning is the practice. It is the bicep curl for your attention muscle. Each return is a victory of gentleness over harshness, of presence over distraction. There is a powerful old story used to describe this process. An untamed wild elephant, representing our mind, is powerful, restless, and destructive. To tame it, a trainer ties it to a strong, solid post with a rope. The post is the present moment, our body. The rope is mindfulness, the awareness of the breath. At first, the elephant is furious. It trumpets and pulls against the rope, trying desperately to break free and run back to the jungle of its habitual thoughts. It struggles for days, but the rope and the post are firm. Gradually, exhausted and realizing its efforts are futile, the elephant begins to calm down. It learns that it can find rest near the post, Eventually, it becomes so tamed that it will lie down peacefully at the foot of the post, even without the rope. Our mind is just like this elephant. At first, it will resist. It will struggle against the gentle tether of the breath. But with patient, persistent practice, it learns that safety, peace, and rest can be found right here in the stillness of the present moment. It is crucial to understand that mindfulness is not about trying to empty your mind or to stop your thoughts. That is impossible. You cannot stop the clouds from passing in the sky. Mindfulness is about learning to be the sky itself, allowing the clouds of thought and emotion to pass through without being swept away by them. It is the cultivation of a knowing presence that is larger than any single thought or feeling. As we stabilize this presence using the anchor of the breath, we create a safe platform from which we can begin to look more deeply at the weather of our own minds. We are now ready to turn this mindful gaze toward the specific patterns of our thoughts and emotions, learning not to be their victim, but their wise and compassionate observer. We have found our anchor. In the simple, rhythmic, ever-present reality of the breath, we have discovered a safe harbor, a place to return to when the storms of the mind begin to rage. We have practiced tethering the restless elephant of the mind to the post of the present moment, and we have felt the first glimmers of stillness. But an anchor is not meant to keep a ship in the harbor forever. It is meant to provide stability, to offer a safe base from which to explore the vast and open ocean. Now, with the breath as our constant and reliable home base, we can begin to turn our attention to the wider territory of our own minds. We can begin the gentle, courageous work of observing our inner weather. For most of us, our inner world is a place of constant turmoil. It is a chaotic sky filled with the passing clouds of thought, the shifting winds of mood, and the sudden storms of emotion. The primary reason this inner weather has so much power over us, the reason a fleeting thought can ruin our day, or a surge of anxiety can paralyze us, is because of a fundamental mistake in identity. We believe that we are the weather. When a dark cloud of sadness drifts across the mind, we don't just see the cloud, we become the cloud. We say, "I am sad." When a bolt of lightning-like anger flashes, we contract around it and say, "I am angry." When the fog of confusion rolls in, we believe, "I am lost." This fusion, this complete identification with the temporary states of our own minds, is the very mechanism of our suffering. We are so caught up in the drama of the clouds that we have completely forgotten that we are the sky. The practice of mindfulness invites us to correct this misidentification. It proposes a radical and liberating truth. You are not your thoughts. You are not your emotions. You are the silent, spacious awareness in which all thoughts and emotions arise and pass away. Thoughts are merely events in the mind. Emotions are merely energy moving in the body. They are visitors passing through the house of your awareness. They are not you. To realize this, not just intellectually, but as a direct lived experience, is the beginning of true freedom. The practice begins, as always, with the anchor of the breath. We sit, we settle, and we connect with the simple feeling of breathing in and breathing out. Once a degree of stability is established, we can gently broaden our awareness. Imagine the focus on your breath is a small spotlight. Now, allow that beam to widen, to illuminate the whole of your present experience. Include the feelings in your body, the sounds in the room, and the space of the mind itself. You are simply resting here, open and aware. Inevitably, a thought or a feeling will arise that is strong enough to pull your attention away. Perhaps it is a worry about a bill that needs to be paid. Perhaps it is a memory of a recent conversation. Perhaps it is a feeling of boredom or restlessness in the body. In our untrained state, we would immediately get caught. We would follow the worry down its rabbit hole. We would start replaying the conversation. We would fidget and try to escape the boredom. The practice of mindfulness offers a different option. When the thought or feeling arises, we simply notice it. We acknowledge its presence with a soft, gentle, mental note. This technique is sometimes called labeling. If you find your mind lost in planning the future, you can gently, silently label it in your mind. Planning. If a memory from your childhood appears, you can just note, remembering. If a wave of frustration washes over you, you can acknowledge it, frustration. This act of labeling is incredibly powerful. It acts as a mental circuit breaker. The moment you name the experience, you are no longer entangled within it. You have stepped out of the stream and are now sitting on the bank, watching it flow by. It creates a small, precious gap of space. You are not judging the thought, analyzing it, or trying to make it go away. You are simply recognizing it for what it is. Ah, this is a thought. This is an emotion. It is a shift from being the subject of your experience to being the calm and curious observer of it. This practice is especially healing when we work with difficult and painful emotions, the ones we spend most of our lives trying to avoid, suppress, or numb. Feelings like fear, grief, shame, or anger. Our usual strategy is to either push them down, pretending they aren't there, or to act them out, lashing out in anger or drowning our sorrows. Mindfulness offers a third way, a path of radical compassion. It is the practice of learning to sit with our difficult emotions. When a powerful feeling like anxiety arises, our first step is to recognize it. This is anxiety. We label it gently. The second step is a courageous act of allowing. We mentally say to the feeling, "You have permission to be here." We stop fighting it. We lay down our weapons. Fighting a feeling is like struggling in quicksand. The more we struggle, the deeper we sink. By allowing it to be, we stop feeding it with our resistance. Then, with this newfound space, we can investigate it with kindness. Where is this feeling in my body? Is it a tightness in my chest? A hollow feeling in my stomach? A tension in my shoulders? We are not trying to figure out why we feel this way. We are simply exploring the raw physical sensations of the emotion itself. We are getting to know it, not as a scary story in our head, but as a pattern of energy in our body. And as we do this, we can offer ourselves a dose of nurture, of compassion. We can place a hand on our heart and silently say, "This is really hard right now. May I be kind to myself." We are learning to become our own best friend, to hold our own pain with the same tenderness we would offer to a crying child. What we discover through this process is miraculous. The emotions we were so afraid of, when met with this kind and spacious awareness, begin to lose their power. They soften, they untangle, and they eventually pass. This is the practice of remembering that you are the sky. For your entire life, you may have believed you were the clouds. You have been blown about by every wind, drenched by every storm, believing that each new weather pattern was your permanent identity. The practice of mindfulness is the gradual, patient, and loving process of reclaiming your sky-like nature. The sky is vast, open, and clear. Storm clouds may gather, lightning may flash, but the storm can never hurt or stain the sky. In fact, the sky is what allows the storm to happen, and it is what remains when the storm has passed. Learning to observe your inner world in this way changes everything. It is the difference between saying, "I am sad," and "I feel sadness." The first statement is a prison sentence. It is a declaration of a fixed identity. The second is a weather report. It is a description of a temporary, passing event. This space, this freedom, cultivated in the quiet of our own practice, is not just for our own benefit. It is a gift we can then carry into the world. When we can listen to our own inner landscape with less judgment and more compassion, we begin to develop the capacity to listen to others in the same way. The peace we cultivate inside naturally begins to flow into our interactions, transforming the way we speak and the way we hear. In the quiet sanctuary of our own awareness, we have begun to practice a new way of relating to ourselves. We have learned to listen to the whispers of our own hearts, to watch the storms of our own minds with a gentle, non-judgmental presence. We have created a small clearing of peace within. But this inner work is not meant to be a private refuge, a fortress into which we retreat from the world. It is a training ground. The compassion and clarity we cultivate in solitude are meant to be carried out into our lives, into our most fundamental and challenging interactions with others. And there is no area where this practice is more potent or more needed than in the realm of communication. Our words have the power to build bridges or to erect walls. They can be a balm that heals or a poison that wounds. The practice of right speech, a crucial element of the Eightfold Path, is the art of using our words with the intention to heal and connect. But the art of right speech does not begin with the mouth. It begins with the ears. Before we can ever hope to speak with wisdom and compassion, we must first learn to listen, not just to hear the sounds that another person is making, but to listen deeply. For most of us, true listening is a rare event. We engage in conversation as a kind of contest. While the other person is speaking, we are not truly listening. We are formulating our rebuttal. We are waiting for a gap so we can share our own story. We are judging their words against our own beliefs, or we are simply lost in our own thoughts, nodding along on autopilot. This is not communication. It is a series of intersecting monologues. Deep listening is a radical act of generosity. It is the practice of offering someone the gift of your full, undivided, and compassionate presence. It means setting aside your own agenda, your own story, your own need to be right, and dedicating your awareness to one purpose: to understand the other person's experience. It is listening not only for the words being said, but for the feelings underneath the words. It is listening for the needs that are being expressed, often clumsily. To listen in this way requires all the skills we have been practicing. It requires us to be anchored in the present moment, so we are not lost in our own mental chatter. It requires us to notice when our own judgments or reactions arise, and to gently set them aside, returning our focus to the other person. When you offer someone this kind of listening, you are giving them a profound gift. You are telling them, I see you, I hear you, you matter. Often, this simple, silent act of compassionate listening is more healing than any advice we could ever offer. From this foundation of deep listening, we can then begin to cultivate skillfulness in our own speech. The wisdom of right speech is traditionally broken down into 4 beautiful and practical guidelines. They are not rigid commandments, but gentle questions we can learn to ask ourselves, a compass to orient our hearts before we speak. The first question is it true? This is the bedrock of all wholesome communication. It is a commitment to live in reality, to abandon falsehoods, exaggerations, and the subtle deceptions we use to protect our ego or manipulate an outcome. It is a vow to be a person whose words can be trusted, creating a foundation of integrity in all our relationships. The second question is it helpful? A statement can be 100% true, but still be useless or even deeply harmful. If a friend is feeling insecure about their appearance, it is true that they have a small wrinkle on their forehead, but is it helpful to point it out? This question invites us to consider the impact and the purpose of our words. Are we speaking just to hear our own voice, to prove a point, to vent our own frustration? Or are we speaking with the genuine intention of contributing something beneficial to the situation? The third question is it kind? This addresses the tone, the emotional texture of our speech. The same truth can be delivered as a weapon or as a gift. We can offer constructive feedback with a tone of harsh criticism that crushes the other person's spirit, or we can offer it with a tone of gentle encouragement that inspires them to grow. This question asks us to check our motivation. Are our words laced with the subtle poisons of sarcasm, irritation, or contempt? Or are they infused with a genuine sense of goodwill? The fourth and final question is it harmonious? This invites us to consider whether our words will bring people together or drive them further apart. This is the great antidote to gossip, slander, and backbiting. Gossip creates a false sense of intimacy between the two who are speaking, but it does so by creating a triangle of animosity. It is an act of subtle violence. Right speech encourages us to be peacemakers, to use our words to build understanding and mend divisions, rather than to fuel conflict. Sometimes, after asking these questions, we find that the most skillful and compassionate response is to say nothing at all. This is the practice of noble silence. It is not an awkward, empty silence, but a rich and spacious silence, filled with presence and acceptance. In a world saturated with noise and opinions, the ability to rest in comfortable silence with another person is a rare and beautiful gift. It allows space for reflection, for emotions to settle, and for the other person to find their own truth without the clutter of our commentary. Of course, we cannot control how others speak to us. We will inevitably encounter harsh words, criticism, and anger. The practice gives us the tools not to react in kind. There is a powerful story of a man who came to see the Buddha with the sole intention of insulting him. He stood before the Buddha and unleashed a torrent of abuse, calling him a fraud and a fool. The Buddha did not interrupt. He sat in silence, listening deeply, his presence calm and unwavering. When the man had finally exhausted his rage and fallen silent, the Buddha spoke softly. "My friend," he said, "may I ask you a question?" The man, taken aback, nodded. "If you prepare a gift for someone," the Buddha said, "and you go to their house to offer it, but they do not accept your gift, to whom does the gift then belong?" The man thought for a moment and replied, "Well, it would still belong to me." The Buddha smiled with great compassion. "Exactly so," he said. "Today, you came and offered me the gift of your anger and your insults. I have chosen not to accept it. This is the freedom that mindfulness brings to our communication. We realize that the words of others are their karma, their creation. Our reaction is our karma, our creation. We do not have to internalize their poison. We can let it remain their gift, unaccepted. With every word we speak, we are weaving the world. We are either weaving webs of misunderstanding and conflict, or we are weaving a tapestry of connection, clarity, and compassion. Every conversation, every brief exchange, becomes an opportunity to practice, to plant a seed of peace in the world, starting with the very next words that leave our lips. And if we can bring this much mindfulness to something as complex as our speech, we can surely bring it to the simplest of our daily tasks, transforming our entire life into a waking meditation. We have explored the inner landscape of our minds, learning to watch our thoughts and emotions with a compassionate presence. We have extended this awareness into our conversations, transforming the way we listen and speak. A certain clarity has begun to dawn, but there is a common trap on this path, a subtle division we create between our practice and our life. We might sit in quiet meditation for 20 minutes, finding a precious sense of peace, only to stand up and immediately plunge back into a world of rush, distraction, and reactivity. We treat our practice like a beautiful, fragile vase that we keep on a high shelf, separate from the messy reality of our daily existence. The true invitation of this path, however, is to dissolve that boundary. The goal is not to become a good meditator. The goal is to become a more awake, present, and compassionate human being in every area of our lives. The meditation cushion is simply the training ground. Our entire life is the grand meditation hall, and the most overlooked and powerful opportunities for practice are hidden in plain sight, within the mundane, repetitive, and often boring tasks that make up our day. Most of us live the vast majority of our lives on autopilot. Think about your morning routine. You might wake up, shower, brush your teeth, get dressed, and make coffee, all while your mind is miles away, already at the office, rehearsing a conversation, or worrying about the day ahead. You might drive your entire commute and arrive at your destination with no real memory of the journey. You can eat an entire meal while scrolling through your phone without tasting a single bite. This autopilot mode is the brain's way of conserving energy, and it is efficient, but it comes at a tremendous cost. It means that we are absent for large portions of our own lives. We are like ghosts in the machine of our own routines, our bodies going through the motions while our consciousness is lost in the fog of past and future. The practice of mindfulness in daily life is the gentle, radical act of waking up from this trance. It is the decision to show up, fully, for the life that is actually happening, right here and now. Let us take the simple, universal chore of washing the dishes. The great Zen master, Thich Nhat Hanh, once said that there are two ways to wash the dishes. The first way is to wash the dishes in order to have clean dishes. The second is to wash the dishes in order to wash the dishes. When we wash the dishes just to get them clean, our mind is already in the future. We rush. We see the dirty dishes as an obstacle, a nuisance to be cleared away as quickly as possible, so we can get to the good part of the evening, like sitting down to watch a movie. Our body is at the sink, but our mind is on the couch. There is a frustrating disconnect. There is no peace. The second way is the path of mindfulness. We stand at the sink and we make the conscious, gentle intention. For these next few minutes, I am simply going to wash these dishes. We turn on the water and we actually feel its warmth on our hands. We pick up a plate and we feel its weight, its smooth texture. We apply the soap and we see the iridescent rainbow-colored bubbles form. We hear the sound of the sponge scrubbing the plate. We are aware of the movements of our hands, the posture of our body. We are simply present with the raw, sensory reality of the task. When our mind inevitably wanders off to a worry or a plan, which it will, we gently notice, without scolding, and we escort our attention back to the feeling of the warm water, the smell of the soap, the sight of the bubbles. In these moments, the task is utterly transformed. It is no longer a chore. It becomes a peaceful, grounding meditation. The true gift is not the stack of clean dishes at the end. The true gift is the 10 minutes of peace and presence we gave to ourselves. We have reclaimed a small piece of our life from the fog of autopilot. We can bring this same quality of attention to the act of eating. Most of us don't really taste our food. We consume it. We refuel, often while distracted by a screen or a conversation. Consider the simple act of eating a single tangerine. A mindful approach would be to first just look at it. See it as if for the first time. See its vibrant orange color, its roundness, the dimpled texture of its skin. Contemplate for a moment all the conditions that had to come together for this tangerine to be in your hand. See the sunshine, the rain clouds, the rich earth, the tree it grew on, the work of the farmer who tended it, the driver who transported it. See the entire universe converging in this one small fruit. This is not a flight of fancy. It is the simple truth. Then, begin to peel it. Notice the fragrant mist that arises, the sound of the skin tearing away. Finally, place one segment in your mouth. You might close your eyes. Instead of chewing and swallowing immediately, just let it rest on your tongue. Notice the explosion of sweetness and tartness, the texture of the pulp, the flood of juice. Chew slowly, savoring each sensation. Eating in this way is no longer just consumption. It becomes a profound act of connection, a communion with the earth, filling us with a natural sense of gratitude and wonder. This practice can be extended to any activity. When you are walking from your car to the grocery store, You can feel the sensation of your feet making contact with the pavement. Feel your heel landing, your weight rolling forward, your toes pushing off. You don't need to walk in a strange or slow way. Just feel the simple miracle of walking, something you do 1,000 times a day without noticing. When you drink a cup of coffee, feel the warmth of the mug in your hands. See the steam rising, smell the rich aroma before you take the first sip. Taste it fully. Turn the most mundane moments into anchors for your awareness. Driving, showering, brushing your teeth. Each one is a golden opportunity to wake up. This is how we begin to close the gap between our formal meditation and our life. We discover that peace is not something we have to search for in some far-off, tranquil place. Sacredness is not reserved for temples and cathedrals. It is hidden in our kitchen sink, in a piece of fruit, in the feeling of our own 2 feet on the ground. By bringing our full, kind attention to these simple moments, we stop waiting for our life to begin. We stop postponing our peace until some future condition is met. We begin, finally, to inhabit the life we are actually living. This practice of stabilizing our awareness and bringing it into the world is one wing of the great bird of awakening. But for the bird to fly, it needs 2 wings. The other wing is the heart. Having learned to train our attention, we are now ready to begin the explicit practice of training our heart to intentionally cultivate the boundless qualities of kindness and compassion, starting with the gentle, warming practice of loving kindness. We have spent our journey together, cultivating the first wing of awakening, the wing of wisdom and mindful awareness. We have learned to bring a clear, steady, and non-judgmental attention to our inner and outer worlds. We have seen how this practice of presence can transform even the most mundane daily tasks into moments of sacred connection. But for the great bird of awakening to take flight, it needs 2 wings. Wisdom alone, without the warmth of a feeling heart, can become dry and cold. The second wing is compassion, and the practice we use to strengthen this wing is one of the most beautiful and transformative in the entire tradition. It is the cultivation of what is known as metta, or loving kindness. This is a meditation not just for the mind, but for the very heart of our being. It is the gentle, intentional work of softening, of opening, of learning to love the world and ourselves without condition. Before we begin, we must be very clear about what metta is and what it is not. In our culture, the word love is heavy with attachments and expectations. Metta is not the romantic love we see in movies, which is often possessive, conditional, and dependent on another person's behavior. It is not the sentimental, saccharine feeling of a greeting card, and it is not about forcing ourselves to be nice or agreeable, which can often be a mask for our own fear. Metta is a far more steady, vast, and unconditional quality. It is a radiant, benevolent goodwill. It is the simple, sincere, and powerful wish for all beings to be happy and free from suffering. The most classic metaphor for metta is the sun. The sun shines its warmth down on the entire world without discrimination. It shines on the beautiful flower and on the tangled weed. It shines on the righteous person and on the person who has lost their way. It does not ask for anything in return. It simply gives its warmth freely and boundlessly. The practice of metta is the practice of learning to become like the sun. The journey of cultivating this warmth begins in the place that, for many of us, is the most difficult. It begins with ourselves. This is not a selfish act. It is an eminently practical one. We cannot offer water to others from a dry and empty well. We must first learn to tend to our own hearts. For most of us, this is a revolutionary act. If you listen closely to your own inner dialogue, you may be shocked to discover how harsh and critical it is. We are often our own worst enemies, speaking to ourselves with a cruelty we would never dream of directing at a friend or even a stranger. The practice of metta towards oneself is the direct antidote to this lifelong habit of self-judgment and criticism. The practice is simple and gentle, finding a comfortable posture. Just as we would for mindfulness of breathing, we can close our eyes and allow our awareness to settle in the area of our heart. Then, silently, we begin to offer ourselves simple, heartfelt wishes. The traditional phrases are a good place to start, but you can alter them so they resonate with you. We repeat them slowly, letting the intention behind them be more important than the words themselves. You might begin by saying, silently, "May I be safe. May I be healthy in body and in mind. May I be truly happy. May I live with ease." When you first do this, it may feel awkward, mechanical, or even ridiculous. Your inner critic might chime in, saying, "You don't deserve this." You might feel nothing at all. This is perfectly normal. Do not be discouraged. The practice is not about forcing a particular feeling to arise. It is about planting seeds. Imagine your heart is a patch of dry, compacted earth. You are gently, patiently, beginning to water it. It will take time for the ground to soften. Simply repeating the phrases with a sincere intention is the work. You are offering yourself the gift of unconditional friendship, perhaps for the first time in your life. Once we have spent some time tending to our own hearts, we can begin to expand the circle of loving kindness. First, we bring to mind a benefactor or a dearly loved friend. This should be someone for whom our love flows easily and without complication. A grandparent, a beloved teacher, a trusted friend, or even a pet. Picture them clearly in your mind's eye. See them smiling and happy. Then, direct the very same phrases toward them. May you be safe. May you be healthy. May you be truly happy. May you live with ease. Allow the natural warmth you feel for this being to flow from your heart. The next stage is to bring to mind a neutral person. This is someone you see in your daily life, but for whom you have no strong feelings one way or the other. It could be the cashier at your local supermarket, the person who delivers your mail, a colleague you don't know well. By extending the wishes of metta to this person, we begin to break down the walls of indifference that separate us from most of humanity. We recognize their humanity, their own quiet wish to be happy, just like us. Then, when we feel stable and grounded in this feeling of warmth, we can approach the more challenging practice, extending metta to a difficult person. This is someone with whom there is friction, conflict, or irritation. It is crucial to approach this stage with wisdom. We are not being asked to condone harmful behavior or to force a false reconciliation. This practice is for our benefit. It is an act of liberation for our own hearts. Holding on to anger and resentment is like holding a hot coal, intending to throw it at someone else. We are the one who gets burned. So, with care, we bring this person to mind, and, as best we can, we extend the same wishes. May you be happy. May you be free from your suffering. We recognize that their unskillful actions are born from their own pain and confusion. This practice is the act of putting down the hot coal, of refusing to let their actions poison our own hearts. Finally, we let the circle become boundless. We radiate the feeling of loving kindness in all directions, to the north, the south, the east, and the west, to all beings above and all beings below. We include all people, all animals, all creatures seen and unseen, large and small, near and far. Without exception and without exclusion, we make the universal wish. May all beings be safe. May all beings be happy. May all beings be free. Metta is not a weak or passive state. It is a source of immense strength and courage. There is a powerful story from the life of the Buddha that illustrates this. The Buddha's jealous cousin, Devadatta, in an attempt to assassinate him, got a fierce war elephant named Nalagiri, intoxicated, and set it loose on the path where the Buddha was walking. The people panicked and fled in terror. The elephant charged, its eyes red with rage. The Buddha's attendant, Ananda, tried to stand in front of him, but the Buddha told him to step aside. He then stood his ground and radiated a powerful, unwavering field of pure, loving kindness toward the charging beast. As the elephant entered this field of metta, its furious charge began to slow. Its rage subsided. Its steps became gentle, and it walked up to the Buddha and knelt at his feet, subdued by the sheer force of unconditional love. This practice is how we learn to tame the raging elephants of fear, hatred, and anger within ourselves, and how we bring a powerful force for healing into a wounded world. Wisdom, the first wing, is what allows us to see our deep interconnectedness. Metta, this second wing, is what allows us to feel it in our hearts. And as we wish for all beings to be happy, a natural question arises. What is our response when we see that they are not happy, that they are in pain? This heartfelt wish to relieve that pain is the beginning of true compassion. We have practiced warming the heart, learning to radiate a gentle, unconditional goodwill to ourselves and to all living beings. This is the practice of metta, the beautiful wish, may you be happy. We have sat like the sun, offering our light freely, but as we continue to sit, with our hearts more open and our awareness more keen, we inevitably encounter a profound and unavoidable truth, the reality of suffering. We see it in the news, we hear it in the voice of a friend, we feel it in the aches of our own bodies and the sorrows of our own hearts. The world is filled not only with beings who we wish could be happy, but with beings who are actively, undeniably, in pain. The heart that has been softened by metta cannot help but be moved by this. This movement, this trembling of the heart in the face of suffering, is the birth of karuna, or compassion. It is the natural evolution of loving kindness. If metta is the wish for another to find water, karuna is the instinct to offer them our own cup when we see they are thirsty. It is essential to understand the profound difference between compassion and its near cousin, pity. Pity creates distance, When we pity someone, we look down from a position of imagined safety or superiority. Pity says, "Oh, that poor person. I am so glad I am not in their position." It is a feeling that reinforces the separation between me, the fortunate one, and you, the unfortunate one. It is a subtle form of ego protection. Compassion, on the other hand, closes the distance. It is built on the foundation of our shared humanity. Compassion says, "I recognize this pain. I know the nature of suffering because I have felt it myself." It is the ability to feel with another person, not just for them. It arises from the deep understanding that we are all vulnerable, that the same potential for joy and sorrow exists in every single one of us. Compassion is the heart's recognition of itself in another. True compassion is not a sad, passive, or overwhelming state. It is not a helpless wringing of the hands. It is an active and energizing force. It is the combination of feeling the suffering of another and the potent wish, "May you be free from this suffering." This wish is not a mere platitude. It is a powerful intention that motivates us. It moves us from being a passive spectator of life's difficulties to an engaged participant in their alleviation. This does not mean we must all become doctors or social workers. The actions born of compassion can be vast, or they can be exquisitely small. The simple act of deep, non-judgmental listening to a friend in distress is an act of profound compassion. A kind word, a gentle touch, a helping hand offered without expectation of reward, these are the tangible expressions of karuna. It is the quality that transforms our practice from a self-centered quest for peace into a life of meaningful service. Just as with metta, the practice of compassion must begin with ourselves. For many of us, this is the most difficult work of all. When we make a mistake, when we fail, when we fall short of our own ideals or the expectations of others, our first instinct is often one of savage self-criticism. We become our own cruelest tormentor, replaying our errors, drowning in shame, and denying ourselves the very kindness we would so readily offer to a friend in the same situation. Self-compassion is the practice of learning to treat ourselves like a dear friend. It is the application of karuna to our own pain, our own imperfections, our own very human struggles. The practice is one of gentle, mindful acknowledgement. When you recognize that you are suffering, whether from a mistake, a loss, or a feeling of inadequacy, the first step is to simply acknowledge the pain. You can say to yourself, silently, "This is a moment of suffering. This is painful." This simple recognition stops the cycle of denial and resistance. The second step is to connect with your shared humanity. You might remind yourself, suffering is a part of life. Everyone feels this way sometimes. Making mistakes is part of being human. This is the direct antidote to the isolating feeling of shame that tells us we are uniquely flawed. The third step is to offer yourself kindness. You can place a hand over your heart, a gesture of physical comfort, and offer yourself kind words. "May I be gentle with myself in this moment. May I give myself the compassion that I need." This practice is not an excuse for poor behavior. It is the very foundation of resilience. It is what allows us to learn from our mistakes without being crushed by them, and to move forward with a heart that is forgiving and whole. In the great sweep of Buddhist lore, the ultimate embodiment of compassion is a figure known as Avalokiteshvara, the one who hears the cries of the world. The legend tells that he made a vow to listen to the suffering of every single being, and not to rest until all of them were liberated. As he listened, the sheer, overwhelming volume of the world's pain was too much to bear. His heart broke, and his head shattered into 1,000 pieces. But in that moment of utter shattering, a miracle occurred. He was reborn, transformed, with 1,000 heads to better perceive all the suffering in the universe, and 1,000 arms to reach out and help. In each of his 1,000 hands, he holds a different tula medicine, a balm, a word of comforter, unique response for each unique form of suffering. This is not just a myth, it is a profound psychological map. It tells us that true compassion is not afraid to look directly at the reality of pain. It has 1,000 eyes, it does not shut down or turn away, and it is not passive. It is creatively and skillfully engaged in the work of healing. It has 1,000 arms. To open ourselves to so much suffering, however, carries a risk. If we simply absorb all the pain of the world, we will be shattered, just as Avalokiteshvara was initially. We will suffer from burnout, from empathy fatigue, from a sense of hopelessness. A wise heart understands that it must be balanced. It must be protected by another quality, the quality of equanimity, which allows us to care deeply, while also recognizing that we cannot control every outcome. We help where we can, we offer our love and support, but we also maintain our own center, our own peace. A compassionate heart is a strong heart, not a sentimental one. Having now cultivated the wish for all beings to be happy, and the wish for all beings to be free from suffering, we are ready to explore the final two qualities that bring this emotional training into full and beautiful balance. The practice of finding joy in the good fortune of others, and the profound, unshakable stability of equanimity itself. We have walked together on the path of the heart, learning to cultivate the warmth of loving kindness, or metta, the wish for all beings to be happy. We have then opened ourselves to the reality of suffering, learning to meet it with karuna, the compassionate trembling of the heart that wishes for all beings to be free from their pain. We have trained our hearts to stay open in the face of both joy and sorrow. But this education of the heart is not yet complete. There are two final qualities, two more essential expressions of a fully awakened heart, that bring our practice into a state of profound balance and maturity. We must ask ourselves, what is our response when we encounter not suffering but success? What is our reaction when others achieve the happiness that we have been wishing for them? And how do we maintain our own inner peace and stability amidst the constant, unpredictable tides of life's joys and sorrows? To answer these questions, we turn to the final two of the four divine abodes, the sublime states of mudita, or sympathetic joy, and upekkha, or equanimity. Let us first explore mudita, or sympathetic joy. This is perhaps the most overlooked, and yet one of the most healing of all the heart practices. Mudita is the ability to feel genuine, unselfish happiness in response to the happiness, success, and good fortune of others. It is the heart's capacity to delight in another person's delight. In many ways, it is a far more challenging practice than compassion. When we see someone suffering, our natural instinct is often to feel a sense of kindness. But when we see someone succeeding, especially in an area where we ourselves feel lacking, a different set of emotions can arise. A shadow can fall over the heart. This shadow is envy, or jealousy. It is the whisper of the ego that says, "Why them and not me?" This feeling of envy arises from what we might call a scarcity mindset. It is the deep, often unconscious belief that happiness is a limited resource, like a pie with only so many slices. If someone else gets a big slice, a promotion at work, a happy relationship, a creative success, we feel on some level that there is now less pie available for us. Life becomes a subtle, anxious competition for happiness. This mindset is a source of immense, private suffering. Envy is a poison that only ever harms the person who feels it. It corrodes our own peace and isolates us from others. Mudita is the direct antidote to this poison. It is the cultivation of an abundance mindset. It is the realization that happiness is not a finite commodity. The joy of another person does not diminish the potential for our own. In fact, happiness is boundless. By learning to share in it, we multiply it. By delighting in the joy of others, we fill our own hearts with that very same quality. The practice of mudita begins by consciously choosing to look for joy. We can start with someone we love dearly, whose happiness is easy for us to celebrate. Bring this person to mind and recall a specific moment of their success or joy. As you picture their happiness, notice any tendency in your own mind to compare or to feel lack. Gently set that aside. Instead, make the conscious choice to rejoice with them. Feel the warmth of their happiness as if it were your own. You can then silently offer them the wish, "I am so happy for you. May your joy and your good fortune continue. May your happiness increase." You can then extend this practice. Think of a neutral person, an acquaintance, who has had some good fortune. Try to feel a flicker of genuine happiness for them. The most advanced and most transformative practice is to try and cultivate mudita for someone you consider a rival or competitor. To be able to genuinely celebrate their success is a profound act of letting go of the ego, and it opens the door to an immense inner freedom. Now we arrive at the fourth and final quality, upekkha, or equanimity. This is the grounding force, the balancing factor for all the other heart practices. A heart filled with loving kindness, compassion, and sympathetic joy is a beautiful, open, and sensitive heart. But without a foundation of equanimity, it can become easily overwhelmed. It can be tossed about by the joys and sorrows of the world, leading to exhaustion and burnout. Upekkha is the quality of profound balance, of spaciousness, of an unshakable peace that allows us to engage with the world, with love, without losing our center. It is crucial to understand that equanimity is not indifference. It is not apathy or cold detachment. Indifference is a state of not caring, of closing the heart down. Equanimity is a state of caring deeply, but with wisdom. It is a vast, open, and stable presence that can hold all of life's experiences without being thrown off balance. It is the ability to meet pleasure and pain, gain and loss, praise and blame, with the same steady and peaceful mind. Upekkha is where wisdom and love finally merge. It is a heart that understands the deep, impersonal laws of the universe. It understands the law of karma, that all beings are the owners of their actions and the heirs of their results. It understands the law of impermanence, that all states, whether joyful or painful, are temporary and will eventually change. This deep seeing is what allows us to let go of the immense burden of trying to control everything. The practice of equanimity often involves quiet contemplation. We can bring different people to mind: those we love, those we are neutral towards, and those we find difficult. Then we can reflect. You are the heir to your own karma. Your happiness and suffering arise from your own causes and conditions. I wish you well with all my heart, but I cannot walk your path for you. I cannot make your choices. Your life is in your hands. This is not a cold withdrawal. It is an act of profound respect for the autonomy of the other person. It is the wisdom that knows the limits of our own power. It frees us from the anxiety of trying to fix everyone, and it frees them from the burden of our expectations. Upekkha is the mountain, which remains stable and still, whether it is bathed in sunlight or battered by a storm. It is the deep ocean, which remains calm and silent in its depths, even while the surface is churned by furious waves. These four qualities, metta, karuna, mudita, and upekkha, form a complete and perfect architecture for an awakened heart. They are the four faces of boundless love. Metta is the open, welcoming hand, offering warmth and friendship to all. Karuna is the compassionate hand, reaching out to support one who is suffering. Mudita is the joyful hand, clapping in celebration of another's good fortune. And upekkha is the steady, grounded presence that holds them all. The wisdom that knows when to act and when to simply bear witness with unwavering love. A heart trained in these four ways is a heart that is truly free. It is open, resilient, wise, and boundless. Having now explored the practices that train the mind in clear seeing and the practices that train the heart in boundless love, we are equipped with a powerful inner toolkit. We have learned to be present, and we have learned to be kind. We are now ready to turn our gaze back to the world and to see how this inner technology can be directly applied to navigate and heal some of the most pressing challenges of our modern lives, beginning with the pervasive, often overwhelming, pressure of materialism and the endless hunger for more. The hunger for more, finding contentment in a material world. We have journeyed deep into the heart, learning to cultivate the boundless states of love, compassion, joy, and equanimity. We have begun to build a resilient and tender inner world. Now, with this fortified heart and our well-trained awareness, we must turn our gaze outward to confront one of the most powerful and relentless forces of our modern age, the pervasive culture of materialism. We live immersed in a story, a grand promise whispered to us from 1,000 billboards and 1,000,000 screens. The story is that happiness can be acquired, that fulfillment can be purchased, that the deep ache of dissatisfaction within us can be soothed by the next purchase, the next upgrade, the next possession. Our entire economy is built upon this promise, this manufactured hunger for more. This hunger is not a new phenomenon. The Buddha gave it a name 2,500 years ago, tanha. It means thirst, craving, longing. It is the second of the four noble truths, the cause of our suffering. The Buddha described it as a thirst that can never be quenched. When you drink salt water to quench your thirst, it only makes you thirstier. And so it is with material possessions. We feel a flicker of excitement when we acquire something newer. New phone, a new car, a new item of clothing. This is the brief, neurological rush of dopamine, the brain's reward chemical. But it is fleeting. Very quickly, the novelty wears off. The new phone becomes just the phone. The new car becomes just the way we get to work. The excitement fades, and the baseline feeling of dissatisfaction returns, often with a renewed sense of urgency. This psychological mechanism is now well documented. It is called the hedonic treadmill. We keep running faster and faster, acquiring more and more, just to stay in the same place emotionally. The ancient Buddhist teachers had a powerful mythic image for this state of being: the preta, or the hungry ghost. These are beings depicted with enormous, distended bellies, representing their insatiable desire, but with mouths as small as the eye of a needle and necks as thin as a single hair. They are eternally starving, forever consuming, yet never, ever able to be filled or satisfied. This is not just an ancient myth, it is a perfect psychological portrait of the modern consumer mind. We are a society of hungry ghosts, chasing a happiness that, by its very nature, can never be found in the objects we pursue. We are looking for our fulfillment in a place where it does not exist. So what is the alternative? The path of wisdom does not demand that we renounce all possessions and live in a cave. It is not about asceticism. It is about a radical shift in our relationship to the material world. It is the cultivation of its direct opposite, contentment. In the spiritual traditions of India, this is known as santosha. Contentment is not a passive resignation or a state of having given up. It is the active, joyful, and liberating recognition that our well-being does not depend on external things. It is the discovery of the wealth that already exists within us. The first step in cultivating contentment is to practice gratitude. Gratitude is the conscious act of turning our attention away from what is missing in our lives and toward the abundance that is already present. Our minds are conditioned to be problem-solving machines. They are experts at scanning the horizon for what is wrong, what is lacking, what needs to be fixed. This is a useful survival skill, but it is a terrible recipe for happiness. Gratitude intentionally reverses this habit. We can make a formal practice of it, perhaps at the beginning or end of each day, by simply listing 3 or 4 things for which we are genuinely grateful. They need not be monumental. The warmth of your bed, the taste of your morning coffee, the fact that your body is breathing on its own, a conversation with a friend, the sound of rain. By consistently focusing our attention on what we have, rather than what we want, we begin to rewire our brains. We shift from a mindset of scarcity to a mindset of abundance, and we discover that our lives are already far richer than we imagined. The second, more direct practice for working with materialism is the application of mindfulness to the act of craving itself. The next time you feel a strong urge to buy something you don't truly need, try this experiment. Instead of immediately acting on the urge, or trying to suppress it, just pause. Close your eyes for a moment if you can, and simply observe the desire. Treat it as you would any other thought or emotion, as a temporary cloud passing through the sky of your awareness. Where do you feel this craving in your body? Is it a restlessness in your hands, an emptiness in your stomach, a tension in your chest? Just feel the raw physical energy of the desire without judgment. Then, ask yourself with gentle curiosity, what is the feeling underneath this desire? What am I hoping this purchase will bring me? Often, we find that the desire for a new object is a mask for a deeper emotional need. Am I feeling bored and hoping for a hit of excitement? Am I feeling insecure and hoping this object will make me feel more valuable or worthy of respect? Am I feeling lonely and hoping this purchase will bring a sense of connection or comfort? By seeing the deeper need clearly, we can begin to address it in a more direct and skillful way. If we are lonely, buying a new gadget will not cure that loneliness. Calling a friend might. If we are feeling insecure, a new outfit will only provide a temporary boost. Cultivating self-compassion will provide a more lasting sense of worth. This practice isn't about shaming ourselves for our desires. It is about using our desires as a doorway to deeper self-understanding. By meeting our true needs directly, the superficial craving for things begins to lose its power over us. This is the path to true freedom. It is the realization that you are already complete. You were born complete. No object can add to your intrinsic worth, and no lack of an object can diminish it. When we step off the hedonic treadmill, when we heal the hungry ghost within, a profound peace begins to emerge. We can appreciate beautiful things without needing to possess them. We can enjoy our possessions without being possessed by them. We are no longer a slave to the endless cycle of wanting and getting. This newfound contentment frees up an enormous amount of mental and emotional energy that is often entangled in the stress and anxiety of maintaining this consumerist identity. Part 2, 16. The weight of the world. Working with stress and anxiety. Having examined the external pressures of materialism, we now turn inward to confront one of the most defining experiences of modern life: the pervasive and often overwhelming presence of stress and anxiety. For millions, this is the default emotional weather. It is the low hum of worry beneath the surface of the day, the racing heart in the middle of the night, the feeling of being constantly on edge, bracing for an impact that never seems to arrive. We often speak of stress as if it were an external enemy, a force that attacks us from the outside. We say, "My job is stressing me out," or "The traffic was so stressful." But the wisdom of this path invites us to make a crucial distinction, one that holds the key to our liberation. The ancient texts tell a story of the 2 arrows. If you are walking through the woods and you are struck by an arrow, that is painful. This is the first arrow. It is the unavoidable pain of life, the difficult events, the losses, the challenges, the things that are outside of our control. The stressful event, the diagnosis, the tough conversation, these are first arrows. They happen. But then, there is a second arrow. The second arrow is our reaction to the first. It is the arrow we shoot into ourselves. It is the story we tell about the pain. Why did this happen to me? This is terrible. I can't handle this. It's going to ruin everything. It is the storm of worry, fear, blame, and self-pity that we generate in response to the initial event. The Buddha taught that the first arrow is inevitable, but the second arrow is optional. Our stress and anxiety are not the first arrow. They are the second arrow. They are the suffering we add to the unavoidable pain of life. The engine of this second arrow is our own monkey mind. It constantly swings to the future, imagining worst-case scenarios, catastrophizing, and rehearsing potential disasters. This triggers the body's ancient fight-or-flight response. Your nervous system doesn't know the difference between a real tiger chasing you and a vividly imagined fear about losing your job. It responds in the same way. It floods your body with adrenaline and cortisol, tenses your muscles, and quickens your breath, preparing you to face a threat. But in the case of anxiety, the threat is a phantom. It is a creation of our own minds. So, we are left in a chronic state of high alert, our bodies constantly marinating in the biochemistry of fear, with no physical release. This is the very definition of chronic stress, and it is exhausting. So how do we stop shooting ourselves with the second arrow? We use the tools we have been cultivating: mindfulness and compassion. We learn to meet the experience of anxiety directly, not as an enemy to be vanquished, but as a frightened visitor in our own house who needs our kindness and attention. A powerful and practical method for doing this is a practice summarized by the acronym RAIN, developed by contemporary mindfulness teachers. The R stands for recognize. When you feel the familiar wave of anxiety beginning to rise, the tight chest, the churning stomach, the racing thoughts, the first step is to simply acknowledge its presence. You can say to yourself, silently and gently, this is anxiety. I recognize you. This simple act of naming it creates a space. You are no longer fused with the anxiety. You are the one who is seeing it. You have already shifted your relationship to it. The A stands for allow. This is a radical step because our instinct is to do the opposite. Our instinct is to fight the anxiety, to push it away, to distract ourselves. But as we know, what we resist persists. Allowing means we consciously let go of the struggle. We give the feeling permission to be there. We mentally say, it's okay. You can stay for a while. We are not saying we like the feeling. We are simply dropping the rope in the tug of war. This act of non-resistance is profoundly calming to the nervous system. The I stands for investigate. With a gentle and curious attitude, we begin to explore the experience. This is not an intellectual analysis of why we are anxious. It is an embodied investigation of what it feels like. You might ask yourself, where is this feeling most strongly in my body? Feel the raw sensations, the vibration, the tightness, the heat, the cold. Just feel. You might also ask, what thoughts are attached to this feeling? What am I believing right now? Just notice the stories the mind is telling, without buying into them as absolute truth. You are being a compassionate journalist, gathering information about your inner world. Finally, and most importantly, the N stands for nurture. This is the act of bringing compassion to the part of you that is suffering. The part of you that feels anxious is like a scared child within you. How would you treat a scared child? You wouldn't yell at them to stop being scared. You would offer them comfort, kindness, and reassurance. You can do this for yourself. You might place a hand on your heart or on your belly, a gesture of physical comfort, and you can offer yourself kind words silently. This is so hard. It's okay to feel this way. May I be kind to myself. May I be safe. You are bringing the medicine of self-compassion directly to the wound of your fear. When you move through the steps of RAIN, you are fundamentally changing your relationship with your own anxiety. You are learning to meet your fear with courage and your pain with tenderness. You are learning to stop shooting the second arrow. Each time you practice this, you are carving new neural pathways in your brain. You are building the inner muscle of resilience. The goal is not to create a life free from first arrows. That is impossible. The goal is to become so skilled at not shooting the second arrow that even when the first arrows fly, you can maintain your inner peace and your open heart. You remember that you are not the storm, you are the sky. This inner resilience becomes the unshakable foundation from which we can then engage with the complexities of our relationships, transforming our sense of separation into a lived experience of deep connection. We have explored the cool, restless energy of anxiety, the feeling of a mind bracing for a future threat. Now, we turn our attention to its other face, its fiery twin, the powerful, explosive, and often intoxicating emotion of anger. If anxiety is the mind in flight, anger is the mind in fight. It is one of the most potent and challenging energies we will ever encounter. It can flare up in an instant, a wildfire that consumes our reason and drives us to say and do things that we later deeply regret. The Buddha used this very metaphor of fire. He taught that anger is a fire that we light with the intention of harming another, but it is a fire that always, without exception, burns us first and most severely. Holding on to anger is a state of profound suffering. It floods our bodies with stress hormones, clouds our judgment, and isolates us from others. The path of wisdom, therefore, does not teach us to ignore this fire or to pretend it isn't there. Suppressing anger is like trying to hold a beach ball underwater. Eventually, it will shoot up with even greater force. Instead, the path teaches us to become skillful firefighters of the mind. We learn to understand the nature of this fire, to handle its energy without getting burned, and ultimately, to transform its destructive heat into a source of illuminating light. To work skillfully with anger, we must first understand its anatomy. Anger, for all its bluster and power, is very often a secondary emotion. It is a protective shield, a loud and aggressive guard dog that the mind sends out to protect a much softer, more vulnerable part of ourselves. If we have the courage to look underneath the roaring fire of our anger, we will almost always find something else. We will find hurt. We will find the sting of disrespect. We will find fear. We will find a deep sense of powerlessness or a feeling of profound injustice. Because these feelings of vulnerability are so uncomfortable, the mind quickly trades them in for the feeling of anger. Anger feels powerful. It feels righteous. It gives us a temporary, intoxicating sense of strength and certainty. It is far easier to feel angry than it is to feel hurt or afraid, and so we become addicted to our own rage, replaying the story of how we were wronged, feeding the fire with our thoughts, all to avoid touching the tender wound that lies beneath. This is the second arrow in its most fiery form. The initial event, the insult, the betrayal, the injustices, the first arrow. Our internal reaction, the obsessive storytelling and the stoking of our own rage, is the second arrow, the fire that we ourselves feed. The first and most critical skill in working with anger is learning to create a pause. Anger moves with lightning speed. The gap between the trigger and our verbal or physical reaction can be almost instantaneous. Mindfulness practice is the art of inserting a sliver of space into that gap. This sacred pause is our moment of power, the moment where we reclaim our freedom to choose our response. The most effective way to create this pause is to immediately drop our attention out of the raging story in our head and into the physical sensations in our body. The moment you feel the first flicker of anger, make a conscious shift. Feel the heat rising in your chest and neck. Notice the clenching in your jaw, the tightness in your shoulders, the impulse to make fists with your hands. Observe the rapid, shallow breathing and the pounding of your own heart. You do not need to fix these sensations or make them go away. Your only job is to feel them, to be present with them as pure, raw energy. By anchoring your awareness in the body, you cut the fuel line to the mental story that is fanning the flames. You stay grounded. This pause might only last for 1 or 2 conscious breaths, but it is enough. It is the space in which wisdom can arise, the space in which we can prevent ourselves from saying the word or doing the act that we will spend hours or days regretting. Once we have created this space, we can then apply the cooling waters of compassion, and this compassion must first be directed toward ourselves. Feeling the raw, intense energy of anger is a painful experience. In that moment of pause, we can offer ourselves a dose of kindness. We can silently say, "This is so painful. Feeling this much anger is a form of suffering. May I be kind to myself right now." This simple act of self-compassion begins to soften the hard, brittle edges of our rage. It acknowledges the pain without needing to justify the anger. From this slightly softer place, we can then attempt the more advanced practice, trying to see the person who triggered our anger with the eyes of compassion. This is not about condoning harmful behavior, excusing injustice, or becoming a passive doormat. It is about liberating ourselves from the prison of our own hatred. We can reflect, this person who acted so unskillfully, what must be happening in their own heart? What pain, what fear, what confusion must be driving them? We can recognize the universal truth that happy, peaceful, and contented people do not go around causing harm. Their actions, however hurtful, are a sign of their own deep suffering. When we can see this, even for a fleeting moment, our relationship to them changes. We can still choose to set firm, clear boundaries. We can still choose to remove ourselves from the situation. We can still take action to prevent further harm, but we can do so from a place of clear-headed strength and sad wisdom, rather than from a place of blind, reactive rage. It is the difference between a surgeon making a precise incision to heal a wound and a thug lashing out with a knife. The action might look similar from the outside, but the intention and the karmic result for our own hearts are worlds apart. This practice is the key to working with long-held anger, the resentments that we carry for years, poisoning our own lives. The Buddha said that holding onto anger is like grasping a hot coal with the intent of throwing it at someone else. You are the one who gets burned. Forgiveness, in this context, is not a gift we give to the other person. It is a profound act of self-love. It is the personal, courageous decision to finally put down the hot coal. It is a declaration that we will no longer allow the events of the past to dictate the quality of our present moment. It is the choice to be free. By meeting the fire of anger with the coolness of mindfulness and the gentleness of compassion, we do something truly alchemical. We begin to transform the very energy of the anger itself. Anger possesses an immense raw power. For most of our lives, we have allowed that power to be a destructive force. But when we no longer fuel the stories of rage and resentment, that energy is liberated. It can be transformed into the energy of courage, the unwavering strength to protect those who are vulnerable. It can become the passion for justice, the clear-sighted determination to address the causes of suffering in the world. It becomes the fire that no longer burns, but illuminates. By healing our own angry hearts, one moment at a time, we begin to see that our own inner peace is not separate from the peace of the world. We see that the illusion of a separate, isolated self is the very root of the conflict we experience, and we begin to awaken to the profound, healing truth of our deep interconnection. We have walked a profound inner path together. We have turned the light of awareness inward to observe the nature of our own minds. We have learned to sit with the hungry ghosts of materialism, to soothe the restless energy of our anxiety, and to transform the consuming fire of our anger. This deep, personal work is the foundation of the path. But its purpose is not simply to create a small, isolated bubble of personal peace. The ultimate effect of this inner transformation is that it radically changes our perception of the world itself. It begins to dissolve the most fundamental illusion that our society is built upon, the illusion that we are separate. When this illusion begins to crumble, we start to perceive a hidden reality, a truth of profound and beautiful connection. The Vietnamese Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh gave this reality a beautiful name, interbeing. From the moment we are born, we are taught the story of the separate self. We are taught that I am in here, and the rest of the world is out there. We see ourselves as skin-encapsulated egos, individual players competing on the great field of life. We see the world as a collection of discrete, separate objects and beings. This worldview is so deeply ingrained in us that we rarely, if ever, question it. Yet, this very illusion of separation is the root of our deepest suffering. It is the source of our profound loneliness, the feeling of being an isolated fragment in a vast, indifferent universe. It is the source of our environmental crises, for if we believe nature is separate from us, it becomes a mere resource to be exploited. It is the source of our conflicts, our tribalism, and our wars, because when we see others as truly other, it becomes easy to dehumanize them and justify our aggression. This feeling of being a solitary, disconnected self is the core wound of the modern psyche. The wisdom of interbeing is the medicine for this wound. It invites us to look more deeply at the nature of reality beneath the surface of appearances. Let us practice this together, right now. Imagine you are looking at a cloud in the sky. If we ask, what is this cloud? Our first answer might be, it's a cloud. But let us look more deeply. What is the cloud made of? It is made of tiny droplets of water. Where did the water come from? It was drawn up from the ocean, from rivers, from lakes, evaporated by the warmth of the sun. So, when we look at the cloud, we can see the sun and the ocean within it. If there were no sun and no ocean, there could be no cloud. The wind is also in the cloud, carrying it across the sky. The dust particles around which the droplets form are in the cloud. We begin to see that the cloud is not a separate, self-existing thing. It is a temporary manifestation of countless non-cloud elements. The cloud inter is with the entire cosmos. To be is to interbe. Now, let us apply this same deep looking to ourselves and our relationships. When we look at another person, we might see them as a separate individual, but with the eyes of interbeing, we see so much more. We see their parents and their grandparents within them, in their DNA, in their learned behaviors. We see their teachers, the friends who shaped them, the culture that nourished them. We see the farmer who grew the food that gives them strength, the construction worker who built the house that gives them shelter, the countless inventors and thinkers who created the language they speak. All of these people and all of these conditions are present in that person, right here and now. They are not a separate self. They are a living, breathing node in a vast and intricate web of causes and conditions. When we begin to truly grasp this, our relationships are transformed. They are no longer transactions between two separate entities, based on the question, what can I get from you? They become opportunities for deep recognition and connection. Our heart practices take on a new and logical urgency. We practice compassion, karuna, not just because it's a nice thing to do, but because we understand that when we harm another, we are, in a very real sense, harming ourselves. Their suffering is a tremor in the web that we both share. We practice sympathetic joy, mudita, because we understand that their happiness contributes to the well-being of the whole. Their joy is not a threat to ours, it is a part of our own extended well-being. And in moments of conflict, the me versus you mentality can begin to soften. We can see the situation as us versus the problem, recognizing that the other person's anger or fear is also a product of this vast web of causes and conditions, just as ours is. This understanding fosters a genuine desire for reconciliation over victory. We can make this a formal practice of contemplation. Take a simple object, like the cup of tea or coffee you might be holding. Look at it deeply, see the tea leaves or the coffee beans. In them, see the earth, the sun, and the rain that nourished the plant. See the hands of the farmer who picked them. See the truck driver who transported them, the person who packed them, the grocer who sold them. See the potter who shaped the clay into this cup, the kiln that fired it, the artist who may have glazed it. See the miners who extracted the minerals from the earth to make the glaze. See how the entire universe has conspired, in this very moment, to bring you this simple cup of tea. It is a miracle of interconnection. Now, turn that gaze upon yourself. Reflect on your own body. It is made entirely of non-you elements. The food you ate, the water you drank, the air you are breathing in this very moment. Your thoughts are made of the language you were taught, the books you have read, the ideas you have heard. Your very consciousness is dependent on the world you are perceiving. If we truly search for a separate, independent self, isolated from the rest of the world, we cannot find one. The boundary we have drawn between ourselves and the universe is a fiction, a line drawn in the sand. This is the ultimate antidote to loneliness. The feeling of being alone is a symptom of the illusion of separation. When we begin to pierce that illusion, we discover the most comforting truth there is. We are never alone. We are intrinsically, unavoidably, and beautifully a part of everything. We are a wave in the ocean of life. We are a leaf on the great tree of existence. We are a single, unique thread woven into a vast, cosmic tapestry. This realization brings with it a profound sense of responsibility, as we understand that our every thought, word, and action sends ripples out through the entire web. But even more than that, it brings a sense of profound peace, of finally coming home. It is the feeling of belonging to the universe. This vision of a world where nothing truly exists on its own, where everything is radically interconnected, leads us to the very pinnacle of this path's wisdom. We are now ready to explore the nature of this groundless, interconnected reality itself, the profound and liberating teaching on emptiness. We have journeyed together from the foothills of our everyday suffering, up the slopes of practice, and into the heart of our shared humanity. We have learned to work with our minds and hearts, and through that inner work, we have begun to see the world differently. We have seen the truth of our radical interconnection, the beautiful and intricate web of interbeing that joins us to everything in the cosmos. We now stand at the trailhead of the final ascent, approaching the very summit of the mountain of wisdom. The view from this peak is the most profound, the most subtle, and the most liberating insight the path has to offer. It is a teaching that can, at first, sound strange or even frightening to the Western ear. It is the teaching on what is called, in the Sanskrit language, sunyata, or emptiness. Before we take a single step further, we must be exceptionally clear. When we hear the word emptiness, our minds immediately conjure images of a black void, a desolate nothingness, a chilling negation of life. This is not at all what sunyata means. In fact, it is the complete opposite. The teaching on emptiness is not a denial of existence. It is the deepest explanation of existence. It is not a statement that things do not exist, but a profound insight into how they exist. The quickest way to understand it is this. Emptiness means empty of a separate, independent, standalone self. It is the final, logical, and liberating conclusion of the truth of interbeing. Let us return to the simple examples we have already explored. We looked deeply at a cloud and saw that it was made entirely of non-cloud elements: the sun, the ocean, the wind, the dust. We saw that if you took away all the things that were not the cloud, there would be no cloud left. Therefore, we can say that the cloud is empty of a separate, intrinsic cloudness. Its existence is entirely dependent on, and interwoven with, everything else. We looked at a simple cup and saw that it was made entirely of non-cup elements: the clay, the water, the fire, the potter. The cup is empty of a solid, independent cupness. Its existence is a temporary, conditional gathering of the entire universe. Now, we turn that same deep looking upon ourselves. We are empty of a separate self. Our bodies, our feelings, our thoughts, our consciousness, everything that we label as me-ice, made entirely of non-me elements. Our body is empty of a separate self. It is made of the food, water, and air of the planet. Our mind is empty of a separate self. It is shaped by our culture, our language, our parents, and our experiences. There is no part of us that we can isolate and point to and say, this is the real, independent me. This is the meaning of emptiness. It is not that we are nothing. It is that we are everything. We are not a separate drop. We are a wave that is one with the entire ocean. One of the most revered texts in this tradition, the Heart Sutra, proclaims this truth in a famously paradoxical line. Form is emptiness. Emptiness is form. Let us unpack this. The first part, form is emptiness, is what we have just been exploring. It means that every form we perceive in the world, a tree, a person, a star, a thought, when we examine it deeply, is found to be empty of any solid, separate, permanent self. This is the deconstructive, analytical side of the wisdom. It breaks down our rigid ideas about the world. But the second part, emptiness is form, is even more profound. This means that precisely because things are empty of a fixed and permanent essence, they are able to come into being, to change, to grow, to interact, and to manifest as the vibrant, dynamic world of form that we experience. Emptiness is not a sterile void. It is the fertile ground of all potentiality. It is the ultimate permission to exist. If a table had a fixed, eternal, independent tableness, it could never have been a tree, and it could never become ashes. It is its very emptiness of a fixed self that allows it to participate in the dance of creation and dissolution. If you were not empty of a separate self, you could not grow, you could not learn, you could not change. Emptiness is the very reason life is possible. It is the ultimate expression of freedom. Why does this seemingly abstract philosophy matter so much? Because understanding it, even intellectually at first, is what ultimately frees us from suffering. When you truly begin to see the empty, fluid, and interdependent nature of all things, your relationship to life is revolutionized. Our desperate clinging, our grasping for permanence in a world of flux, begins to naturally relax. How can you cling tightly to a flowing river or a passing cloud? You learn to hold life with an open, gentle hand. Our deepest fears also begin to lose their power. Most of our fears are related to loss, the fear of losing our health, our wealth, our loved ones, and ultimately our own lives, our own self. But the wisdom of emptiness reveals that nothing can ever be truly lost, because nothing was ever truly separate in the first place. It only changes form. The wave does not die. It simply returns to the ocean, which it was always a part of. The energy that animated our being does not vanish. It returns to the great web of the cosmos. The fear of an absolute ending is replaced by a deep trust in the endless process of transformation. And finally, when the deep-seated illusion of a separate me and a separate you truly dissolves into the shared luminous reality of emptiness, compassion is no longer something you have to practice. It becomes the only sane and logical response. It is the spontaneous expression of a heart that knows it is not separate from the world it perceives. Helping another is no longer a transaction between two separate beings. It is simply one part of the whole organism, taking care of another part. It is the left hand, without thinking, immediately coming to the aid of the right hand when it is injured. Living with an understanding of emptiness does not make the world disappear. It makes it appear more brilliant, more precious, and more magical than ever before. Every person, every object, every fleeting moment is seen for what it is, a miraculous, unrepeatable, and sacred gathering of the entire universe. It is like watching a breathtaking illusion, a dance of light and shadow, and its very insubstantiality is what makes it so incredibly beautiful. This is the ultimate letting go release of our rigid concepts, our fixed ideas, our desperate need for a solid ground that was never there. It is the final dissolution of the walls of the self. We have now stood at the summit and glimpsed the boundless view. The final task is to learn how to carry this expansive vision back down into the valley of our daily lives, how to walk, work, and love in a way that is an embodiment of this ultimate freedom. We have explored the mind, we have diagnosed the universal condition of unease, and we have walked, step by step, through a timeless path designed to lead us toward clarity and peace. We have even considered how to hold our ground amidst the unique storm of the digital age. a challenge the ancient masters could never have foreseen, yet for which their wisdom is perfectly suited. And now, we arrive at the culmination of all this learning, the final and perhaps most crucial understanding of the entire journey. It is the realization that this path is not a race to a finish line, not a series of tasks to be completed in order to win a prize. It is the radical and liberating discovery that the path itself is the goal. There is nowhere to get to, because the peace we seek is not found at a destination, but in the quality of our every step. For many of us, raised in a culture of ambition and achievement, this is a difficult concept to truly absorb. We are conditioned to think in terms of progress, of moving from point A to point B, of striving for a future moment when we will finally have it all figured out, when we will finally be happy, when we will finally be at peace. We treat enlightenment, or inner peace, or spiritual awakening as just another goal to be acquired, another item to check off our celestial to-do list. We imagine a day when we will sit on our meditation cushion and a switch will flip, and from that moment on, we will be impervious to anger, anxiety, and sorrow. But this is a fantasy, a subtle trick of the ego which takes the profound truth of liberation and turns it into another object of craving. The truth is far more simple, far more integrated, and far more beautiful. It is the understanding that there is no fundamental separation between our spiritual practice and our real life. The real practice does not just happen in the quiet moments we carve out for formal meditation. The real work is done in the messiness of our ordinary existence. The real temple is the grocery store checkout line, the morning traffic jam, the difficult conversation with a family member, the mountain of laundry waiting to be folded. These are not interruptions to our practice. These moments are the practice. To live a contemplative life is to dissolve the boundary between the sacred and the mundane, to realize that every single moment, without exception, is an opportunity to be awake. When you are washing the dishes, the practice is not to be thinking about meditation. The practice is to wash the dishes, to feel the warmth of the water on your hands, to see the iridescent shimmer of the soap bubbles, to hear the gentle clink of ceramic on ceramic, to be so fully present with the act of washing that the past and future fade away, and there is only this simple, profound, unfolding moment. When you are walking from your car to your office, the practice is to feel the sensation of your feet on the pavement, to notice the quality of the air you are breathing, to see the colors and shapes around you without the filter of judgment or commentary. When you are listening to a colleague speak, the practice is to offer them the gift of your full, undivided attention without formulating your response while they are still talking. This is the essence of integration. It is not about adding more tasks to an already busy life. It is about changing the quality of awareness with which we perform the tasks that are already in front of us. This shift in perspective transforms everything. The chores that once felt like burdens become opportunities for mindfulness. The interactions that once felt like obligations become chances to practice compassion. Life itself, in all its chaotic and unpredictable glory, becomes our meditation hall. Of course, this is not easy. It requires a profound reorientation, and it requires a deep well of patience and self-compassion. There will be days, many of them, when we forget. The old habits of the mind are strong. We will get lost in thought, carried away by waves of anger, or pulled under by currents of anxiety. We will spend an entire day on autopilot, only realizing as our head hits the pillow that we were barely present for any of it. In these moments, it is essential to remember the principle of right effort. The practice is not about achieving a perfect, unbroken state of mindfulness. Such a goal is just another form of striving that creates tension. The practice, rather, is in the noticing. It is in the moment you become aware that you have been lost. And in that moment of noticing, the key is to be incredibly gentle with yourself. There is no need for self-recrimination or frustration. To judge yourself for having a wandering mind is like being angry at the sky for having clouds. It is simply the nature of things. The real art is to gently, without force or judgment, guide your attention back. Each time you do this, you are strengthening the muscle of awareness. The failure of getting lost and the success of returning are two sides of the same coin. You cannot have one without the other. Therefore, we learn to be kind to ourselves. We treat our own minds with the same loving kindness, the same metta, that we are cultivating for all beings. We give ourselves permission to be imperfect, to be human. And in this act of radical self-acceptance, we find a new kind of freedom. This is how we begin to shift from a mode of doing to a mode of being. In the beginning, mindfulness feels like something we do. We do our 10 minutes of meditation. We try to be present. It is an activity, an effort we apply. But as we continue to practice, as we continue to gently return again and again, something remarkable begins to happen. The effort lessens. Awareness starts to feel less like a tool we are wielding and more like the very atmosphere in which we live and breathe. It becomes our default state. We don't have to constantly remind ourselves to be present, because presence becomes our nature. We are no longer a person doing mindfulness. We are a mindful person. We are no longer a person practicing compassion. We are a compassionate being. This is the subtle, organic process of transformation. It is not a sudden dramatic event, but a gradual unfolding, like a flower opening to the sun. There is a famous Zen story that perfectly illustrates this profound truth. A visitor came to a monastery and saw the old master, a man renowned for his deep wisdom and enlightenment, sweeping fallen leaves in the courtyard. The visitor was perplexed. He approached the master and said, "Master, I have traveled far to see you. I have heard that you are a fully awakened being. Why, then, are you performing such a simple, mundane chore as sweeping leaves?" The old master paused his sweeping, leaned on his broom, and looked at the visitor with a gentle, knowing smile. "Before I was enlightened," he said softly, "I swept the leaves. Now that I am enlightened, I sweep the leaves." This story holds the entire teaching within it. The path does not lead to an escape from life. It does not transport us to some otherworldly realm where there are no responsibilities, no chores, no fallen leaves to be swept. The outer circumstances of our lives may not change at all. We still have to work, pay bills, care for our families, and navigate the complexities of human relationships. What changes is not the world, but the one who is experiencing the world. Before enlightenment, the master may have swept the leaves with a mind full of chatter, with resentment about the task, with impatience to finish and move on to something more important. He swept the leaves, but he wasn't truly there. After enlightenment, he sweeps the leaves. The action is identical, but now he sweeps with a mind that is as clear and vast as the sky. Each movement of the broom is an expression of presence. The sound of the bristles on the stone path, the sight of the red and gold leaves gathering together, the feeling of the autumn air, all of it is experienced fully, without resistance, without commentary. The act of sweeping is no longer a means to an end. The act of sweeping is life itself, unfolding in perfect, simple grace. This is the ultimate goal: to sweep the leaves, to wash the dishes, to write the email, to live our ordinary lives with an extraordinary awareness, an unshakable peace, and a boundless heart. The path is not a preparation for life. The path is life itself, lived deeply. We began this journey together, in a place that is familiar to so many. We began in a state of quiet desperation, sitting in the stillness of a traffic jam, surrounded by the noise of a life that felt both full and empty. We began with a profound sense of being overwhelmed, of running a race without knowing the destination, and with a deep, unspoken longing for a different way to be. And now, after walking this ancient path, let us return to that very scene. The rain may still be falling against the window, the phone may still be buzzing with notifications. The world outside has not fundamentally changed. But within, if we have been willing to look, everything has the potential to be different. Our journey has been one of deep seeing. We have traveled from the initial, honest acknowledgement of our universal condition of unease, our dukkha, to understanding its root cause in the ceaseless thirst of our own minds. We learned the most hopeful of all truths, that if this suffering has a cause, it can also have an end. We were given a map, the Noble Eightfold Path, not as a set of rigid commandments, but as a practical guide for living a life of wisdom, ethical conduct, and mental clarity. We dared to look at the fluid, impermanent nature of reality, and in doing so, we began to loosen the grip of the most stubborn illusion of all, the belief in a solid, separate, and permanent self. We saw that we are not isolated islands, but are intrinsically woven into the vast, interconnected web of existence, where every thought, word, and action matters. And so we arrive at the heart of it all, the core message that this entire journey has been leading towards. Peace is not the absence of problems. It is not a prize to be won after a long struggle, nor is it a permanent vacation from the challenges of being human. Peace is an inside job. It is the deep, quiet stillness that can be found right in the center of the storm. It is a sanctuary that we build within ourselves, brick by brick, with each conscious breath, each moment of mindfulness, each act of compassion. It is an inherent quality of a mind that has learned to see things as they are, without adding the second arrow of judgment, resistance, or fear. The world will always present us with chaos, but it does not have to create chaos within us. You have now been shown the map. The tools have been placed in your hands. This wisdom does not belong to a distant culture or a bygone era. It is the universal heritage of every human being who seeks an end to suffering and a beginning of true freedom. You are not a helpless victim of your thoughts, or a passive observer of your life. You are the one who has the power to observe, to understand, and to choose. You can choose to feed the wolf of anger or the wolf of compassion, You can choose to be lost in the noise, or to anchor yourself in the quiet presence of this moment. The path does not demand that you become someone else. It simply invites you, with infinite patience and kindness, to become fully and completely yourself. The journey home, to the unshakable peace in the center of your own being, begins now. It begins with a single, simple, conscious breath,